Hello friends. Welcome to the Ben 10 What Ifs. How are you all? So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Ben 10 found the ancient phoenix Omnitrix and got Harem of Rook Blonko. Looma and Elena. Also be sure to subscribe and like this video. Now let's begin. Chapter 1. The Awakening. The desert wind swept across the archaeological site, carrying fine particles of sand that glinted like gold dust in the setting sun. Dr. Irena Schultz brushed a lock of silver-streaked hair from her eyes as she carefully removed another layer of sediment from what appeared to be an ancient control panel. Her weathered hands, steady despite 40 years of fieldwork, worked with practiced precision. Dr. Schultz, you need to see this. Her assistant's voice carried an unusual tremor. Irena straightened, wincing as her back protested the movement. The excavation had been ongoing for 3 weeks now, uncovering what appeared to be a facility predating any known human civilization. The architecture and technology fragments suggested origins far beyond Earth. She crossed the site, careful not to disturb the grid markers that divided the excavation into precise sectors. Marcus, her graduate student, stood before a newly uncovered wall covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change as the light played across them. The patterns, they're responding to our presence, Marcus whispered, extending his hand without touching the surface. As his shadow fell across the glyphs, they pulsed with a faint amber light. Document everything, Irena instructed, reaching for her specialized scanner. And contact Plumber headquarters immediately. This matches the Galvan technological markers we've been briefed about. Marcus nodded and retreated to the communications tent. Irena's fingers hovered over the symbols, her scientific curiosity warring with years of hard-won caution. Whatever this facility contained had remained hidden for millennia. There was no rushing discovery now. The symbols began pulsing more rapidly, the amber glow intensifying until it flowed like liquid light between the characters. Irena stepped back as a seam appeared in what had seemed solid stone, revealing a chamber beyond that emitted a warm glow. Magnificent, she breathed, as decades of professional detachment momentarily faltered. Inside the newly revealed chamber, suspended in an energy field that hummed with power, floated a device that resembled an ornate bracelet. Its surface featured intricate circuitry patterns that reminded ire. Of phoenix wings unfolding, elegant curves of metal that seemed almost alive as they caught the light. The communication device at her hip crackled to life. Dr. Schultz, Plumber response incoming. Please secure the site and await authorized personnel. Irena acknowledged the message, but couldn't tear her eyes from the artifact. Something about it seemed to call to her, a silent invitation to centuries of knowledge. As a scientist, she recognized the dangerous allure of such feelings. The most remarkable discoveries often carried the greatest risks. Perimeter secured, Dr. Marcus reported, returning with 2 security officers. Plumber team ETA 12 minutes. Irena nodded, finally turning away from the chamber. No one enters until they arrive. Whatever this is, it's been waiting a long time. It can wait a few minutes more. As if in response, the humming from the chamber intensified, and the amber glow pulsed outward in concentric waves that passed through solid matter as though it were mist. The energy washed over the research team harmlessly, but every electronic device in the vicinity activated simultaneously, screens displaying the same symbol, a stylized bird rising from flames. Miles above Earth's atmosphere, an orbital monitoring station detected the energy pulse. Automated systems analyzed the signature, matching it against known phenomena. Finding no correlation, the station's AI flagged the anomaly for immediate review and dispatched an alert to Plumber headquarters. Ben Tennyson slouched in his chair, spinning a holographic projection of with his finger while suppressing a yawn. At 23, he had matured physically from the lanky teenager who first found the Omnitrix, developing a lean muscular build earned through years of combat and training. His brown hair was slightly longer now, often tousled from running his hand through it during moments of concentration. Your attention appears to be wandering, Ben Dude, his par. Tennesseer observed from across the monitoring station. Rook Blonko hadn't changed much over the years, still maintaining his precise posture and formal manner that occasionally slipped into awkward attempts at Earth slang. His blue-furred features remained youthful, though experience had added depth to his amber eyes. Just wondering why we pulled monitor duty 3 weeks straight, Ben replied, straw. idling as he noticed Magistrate Tennyson, his grandfather, approaching through the command center. There hasn't been a major incident since that dust-up with the Inkerscenes last month. Perhaps that is precisely why we are assigned here, Rook suggested. Your propensity for finding trouble is statistically significant. Logically, placing you where nothing happens might be strategic. Ben snorted. Are you saying Grandpa's using me as a good luck charm? I am saying no such thing. Rook's whiskers twitched with suppressed amusement. I am merely observing a pattern. If I wanted you two to prevent incidents, I'd send you on vacation to the most remote corner of the galaxy, Max Tennyson interjected as he reached their station. Despite his advancing years, the former plumber maintained a commanding presence, though the lines around his eyes had deepened with each crisis averted. Please tell me you're here to assign us something more exciting than watching atmospheric anomaly reports, Ben said, gesturing to the screens displaying various planetary metrics. Max's expression turned serious. Careful what you wish for, Ben. He activated the central display. We just received this from the archaeological expedition in the Sahara. The screen displayed footage of the pulsing chamber and the floating artifact. Energy readings scrolled alongside the image, highlighting unusual patterns that even Ben recognized as significant. Dr. Schultz believes they've uncovered a Galvan outpost dating back approximately 40,000 years, Max explained. That predates any WN Galvan contact with Earth by tens of thousands of years. Ben leaned forward, suddenly alert. And the fancy bracelet. Unknown technology, but the energy signature has components similar to your Omnitrix, Max replied, nodding toward the device on Ben's wrist. Azimuth has been notified, but he's currently unreachable in a remote sector of the galaxy. So naturally, you thought of us, Ben concluded, already standing. The familiar anticipation of a new mission replaced his earlier boredom. When do we leave? Transports prepped and waiting. Dr. Schultz has secured the site, but where? Picking up increasing energy fluctuations. I need your experience with alien tech, and Rook's analytical abilities on this. Rook was already gathering his equipment, the prototool secured across his back. Has there been any attempt to interface with the artifact? Negative. Standard containment protocols are in place, but this technology seems to be awakening on its own. Max's concern was evident in his furrowed brow. This is observation only, Ben. No heroics until we understand what we're dealing with. Relax, Grandpa. I'm not 16 anymore, Ben assured him with a confident SMI. That didn't quite mask the gleam of excitement in his green eyes. I'll let Rook do all the boring analysis before I even think about touching anything. That would be a first, Rook remarked dryly. Max handed Ben a data pad with the mission details. The site is experiencing communications interference, so you may be on your own once you're there. Dr. Schultz is the leading xenoarchaeologist in the plumbers, so defer to her expertise. Got it. Observation, analysis, no touching the glowy things, Ben summarized, heading toward the hangar with Rook close behind. Just another Tuesday. As they departed, Max watched with a mixture of pride and concern. Despite his grandson's maturity and impressive record, something about this discovery stirred a deep unease. He'd seen too many ion technologies awaken with catastrophic consequences. Be careful, he murmured, though they were already gone. The plumber transport craft cut through the night sky above the Sahara, its advanced propulsion system nearly silent as it approached the excavation site. Ben piloted while Rook reviewed the preliminary data from the archaeological team. The energy readings are unlike anything in our databases, Rook noted. Scrolling through the analysis, there are similarities to the Omnitrix's power signature, but with harmonic variations that suggest a different fundamental approach to interdimensional energy manipulation. Quote, Ben guided the craft toward the landing coordinates. In English, partner, it is as though someone created technology similar to the Omnitrix but with a completely different philosophy behind its design, Rook clarified. Like two composers creating music using the same notes but producing entirely different symphonies. And this one's been playing for 40,000 years, Ben mused. Bringing the transport into its final descent. Wonder what woke it up now. The craft settled on the desert floor a safe distance from the excavation. As the engines powered down, Ben could feel a subtle vibration through the hull that had nothing to do with their landing. "You feel that?" he asked, glancing at Rook. The Ravanagander nodded, his sensitive whiskers twitching. "The air contains a form of energy I have never encountered before. It is, not unpleasant, but concerning." They disembarked into the cool desert night. The archaeological site was illuminated by powerful floodlights that cast sharp shadows across the ancient structures. A perimeter of energy barriers had been established around the central excavation, with plumber security. Personnel stationed at regular intervals. Dr. Schultz approached as they cleared the security checkpoint. Her weathered face reflected both excitement and caution, an expression Ben had seen on Scient. ISTS who'd discovered something beyond their understanding but were too fascinated to step away. "Mr. Tennyson, Agent Blonko, thank you for coming so quickly," she greeted them, foregoing formalities. "The artifact has accelerated its activation cycle in the past hour. Please, this way." She led them through the excavation toward the chamber housing the mysterious device. Ben noticed how the sand around the site had arranged itself into spiraling patterns, as though influenced by an invisible force. "Has anyone been affected by the energy pulses?" Rook asked, scanning their surroundings with his proto-tool. "Not physically, Drive," Schultz replied, "but several team members reported unusual dreams last night, visions of fire and renewal. Consistent themes across different cultural backgrounds." They reached the entrance to the chamber. The pulsing amber light had intensified, illuminating the interior with a warm glow that seemed almost welcoming. "The artifact appears to be of Galvan design, but incorporates elements I've never seen in other Galvan technology, Drive," Schultz explained. The symbols reference an ancient group called the Phoenix Covenant, a faction that apparently separated from mainstream Galvan society millennia ago. Ben approached the energy barrier separating them from the chamber. Inside, the bracelet-like device continued to float in its energy field, its intricate circuitry now pulsing with light that flowed through patterns resembling feathers. "The Phoenix Covenant is not mentioned in any plumber records," Rook noted, scanning the artifact. "But there are myths among several species about Galvan pioneers who believed in a more spiritual approach to technology." "Spiritual Galvans?" Ben raised an eyebrow. Azimuth would have a field day with that concept. "Even the most rational species have their mystics, Drive," Schultz commented. "The translations we've completed suggest they were researching symbiotic relationships between technology and biological systems, far beyond what the Omnitrix achieves." Ben instinctively touched his own Omnitrix, the familiar weight on his wrist a constant reminder of his responsibility. So what triggered it to wake up now? After 40,000 years? That's the question, isn't it? Doctor. Schultz gestured to the monitoring equipment surrounding the chamber. "We've detected no external stimulus that could account for its activation. It's as though it decided it was time." The artifact pulsed more brightly as Ben moved closer to the barrier, the flowing light patterns accelerating their movement. "Ben," Rook said quietly, "it appears to be responding to your presence. Specifically, to the Omnitrix." Before Ben could respond, the ground beneath them trembled. Not the steady vibration from before, but a violent shudder that sent equipment crashing to the ground. The energy barrier fluctuated, its blue glow flickering dangerously. "Earthquake?" Ben asked, steadying himself against a support pillar. "Doctor." Schultz shook her head, checking a handheld scanner. "No seismic activity detected. This is coming from." A blinding flash erupted from the chamber as the artifact's energy field collapsed. The device remained suspended, but now the amber light had formed a distinct shape around it, the silhouette of a bird with wings outstretched. "Phoenix," Ben whispered, recognition dawning. "The mythological bird of fire and rebirth." The trembling intensified, and cracks appeared in the ancient floor of the chamber. Through these fissures, a darkness deeper than the absence of light began to seep, a viscous shadow that moved with purpose. "Evacuate the site," Rook commanded, activating his communicator to alert the security team. "All personnel fall back to minimum safe distance." Researchers scrambled to secure critical equipment as the security team coordinated the evacuation. Ben and Rook positioned themselves between the chamber and the retreating personnel, ready to conference. "Ront whatever emerged from the growing darkness." "What is that?" Ben asked, watching the shadow substance pool on the chamber floor beneath the floating artifact. "Unknown," Drive, Schultz replied, Rem, aiming beside them despite the evacuation order. But the translations mentioned guardians placed to prevent the misuse of the Phoenix technology, tests for those who sought its power. The shadow substance began to take form, rising from the floor in a vaguely humanoid shape that towered nearly 9 feet tall. Its surface rippled like oil on water, occasionally revealing glimpses of what appeared to be stars within its depths. I'm thinking this is one of those guardians, Ben said, activating the Omnitrix. The familiar holographic display appeared, showing silhouettes of his available transformations. And I'm guessing it's not here to welcome us with open arms. Ben, wait, Rook cautioned. We do not know. The Shadow Guardian extended an arm that elongated impossibly, shooting toward them with frightening speed. Rook reacted instantly, the proto-tool transforming into a shield that deflected the attack. The shadow substance splashed against it, hissing like water on hot metal. That answers that question, Ben said, selecting an alien form and slamming his hand down on the Omnitrix. Emerald light engulfed him as his DNA reconfigured into one of his most versatile forms. Diamond Head, he announced, his body now composed of crystalline material that refracted the amber light from the artifact. The Shadow Guardian recoiled momentarily, then surged forward with renewed purpose. Ben raised his arms, creating a crystalline barrier that the creature crashed against. The impact sent vibrations through his transformed body, a sensation like fingernails on chalkboard. Dr. Schultz, you should evacuate with the others, Rook advised, the proto-tool shifting to its blaster configuration. This is a first contact situation with technology my team uncovered, she replied firmly. I'm staying. The Shadow Guardian's form shifted, dividing into multiple tendrils that whipped around Ben's crystal barrier. One caught him across the back, leaving a freezing sensation where it touched. Okay, not a fan of that, Ben growled, generating crystal shards that he launched at the creature. The projectiles passed through its body without apparent effect, embedding in the chamber wall beyond. Rook fired precisely calibrated energy pulses at the Guardian, which seemed to disrupt its form temporarily before it reconstituted. Conventional attacks appear ineffective, he observed. We need to determine its composition. The Guardian surged forward again, this time focusing its attack on Dr. Schultz. Ben moved with surprising speed for his crystalline form, intercepting the tendril and severing it with a blade-shaped arm. The separated shadow fragment dissipated into vapor that smelled of ozone and ancient dust. It's targeting specific individuals, Ben realized. Testing us. The Guardian paused, its formless head tilting as though considering Ben's words. Then it shifted tactics, sinking back into the floor and reappearing closer to the floating artifact. Tendrils of shadow wrapped around the Phoenix device, which pulsed brightly in response. It's attempting to reclaim the artifact, Drive, Schultz warned. The translations suggested the Guardian's wool. Return it to dormancy if the Seekers proved unworthy. And we really don't want to be found unworthy, Ben muttered. Not when that thing's waking up on its own anyway. He charged forward, Christ. A line body reflecting the amber light in dazzling patterns across the chamber walls. The Guardian swelled to meet his attack, enveloping him in suffocating darkness. Inside the shadow's embrace, Ben felt a profound cold unlike anything he'd experienced, not the absence of heat, but the absence of existence itself. His consciousness stretched thin, as though being pulled across vast distances. Through the darkness, images flashed before him. Worlds burning, civilizations rising and falling, life emerging from desolation. And throughout it all, the symbol of the Phoenix, watching, waiting, judging. Outside, Rook watched in alarm as Ben's crystalline form became completely enveloped by the Guardian. Ben, he shouted, the proto-tool shifting to its power sword configuration as he leapt forward. Wait, Dr. Schultz caught his arm, surprising him with her strength. Look at the artifact. The Phoenix device was pulsing in sync with the shadow mass that had engulfed Ben, the amber light growing more intense with each pulse. The bird silhouette had become more defined, its wings extending toward the struggle. Within the darkness, Ben fought to maintain his sense of self against the crushing void. Diamond Head's crystalline body began to crack under pressures beyond physical understanding. Worthy. The question formed in Ben's mind, though he heard nothing. I don't care about worthy. Ben responded through gritted teeth. I care about protecting people. If that thing's waking up and might hurt someone, I need to understand it. Images flashed faster. Ben's own memories now. Moments when he'd used the Omnitrix to help others, to save worlds, to make difficult choices. The shadow presence sifted through his experiences, judging, assessing. Purpose. Came the next question, reverberating through his being. Ben struggled to form coherent thoughts as his consciousness continued to fragment. To help, to protect, to be better. The pressure intensified, and Ben felt diamond heads form beginning to fail. The Omnitrix symbol on his chest pulsed with green light, attempting to maintain the transformation against the shadow's influence. In that moment of vulnerability, Ben felt something else reach out to him. Not the cold emptiness of the Guardian, but a warm presence from the Phoenix artifact. It touched his mind gently, like sunlight breaking through clouds. Balance, asterisk it communicated. Not in words but in pure understanding. Renewal, unity, asterisk. The green light of the Omnitrix and the amber glow of the Phoenix device suddenly merged, creating a brilliant emerald gold radiance that exploded outward. The Shadow Guardian dissipated like mist before the morning sun, releasing Ben as his transformation timed out. He collapsed to his knees, human once more, gasping for breath as though he'd been underwater. Rook was instantly at his side, supporting him with a steady hand. Ben, are you all right? Define, all right, Ben managed, his voice rough. Pret, why sure I just had my mind read by something older than human civilization. The Phoenix artifact descended slowly from its suspended position, the amber light now a gentle glow rather than the intense pulses from before. It hovered before Ben, waiting. It has made a choice, drive. Schultz whispered, awe evident in her voice. The translation spoke of this, the Phoenix chooses its bearer. Ben looked at the device warily. Last time an alien watch chose me, my summer vacation got really complicated. This appears to be more than a simple selection process, Rook observed, scanning both Ben and the artifact. The energy patterns have synchronized with your Omnitrix. The Phoenix device moved closer, its intricate circuitry rearranging itself subtly. The shape now resembled a gauntlet more than a bracelet, with spaces that seemed designed to integrate with the Omnitrix. Dr. Schultz, Ben said, not taking his eyes off the hovering artifact, what exactly did those translations say about the Phoenix technology? She consulted her notes, hands slightly trembling with excitement. The Phoenix Covenant believed in transcending the boundaries between user and technology, a true symbiosis rather than merely wearing a device. They sought to create technology that would evolve with its user, growing in response to experiences and choices. So less like wearing a watch and more like. Ben trailed off, searching for the right comparison. More like forming a partnership, Rook suggested quietly. The artifact pulsed once in what seemed like affirmation. Ben slowly extended his hand, the arm bearing the Omnitrix. If this thing tries to replace my Omnitrix, I'm going to be seriously annoyed. I just got used to the latest update. As his fingers approached the Phoenix device, the amber light extended to meet him, flowing around his hand like liquid sunshine. The sensation was warm but not burning, a gentle pressure that seemed to evaluate every cell. The Omnitrix reacted, its green interface lighting up without Ben's activation. Symbols scrolled across its surface too quickly to read, as though the two technologies were communicating. Ben, Rook said cautiously. Perhaps we should consult Azimuth before proceeding. I don't think it's giving me a choice, Ben replied as the amber light intensified, forming a cocoon around his arm. Besides, when has waiting for permission ever been my style? The Phoenix device moved of its own accord, positioning itself above the Omnitrix. For a moment, both technologies remained separate, one ancient and one modern. Both created by Galvan minds with vastly different philosophies. Then, with a flash of combined emerald and amber light, they merged. The sensation that coursed through Ben's body defied descriptio. Like every transformation he'd ever experienced happening simultaneously while remaining human. His consciousness expanded, touching briefly on thousands of genetic memories from the aliens within the Omnitrix, yet remaining anchored to his human identity. When the light faded, the Omnitrix appeared superficially unchanged on his wrist. However, intricate filigree patterns now extended from it, wrapping around his forearm like metallic vines with circuit patterns that pulsed with amber light before fading to appear like an elaborate tattoo. Ben stared at his arm, flexing his fingers experimentally. Okay, that was intense. Are you all right, Doctor? Schultz asked, approaching cautiously. What do you feel? Ben took a moment to assess himself. Different, but not in a bad way. Kind of like when you're half asleep and everything feels more connected. He looked at the patterns on his arm. The Omnitrix feels lighter somehow, but also more present, if that makes any sense. Phoenix technology appears to have integrated with the Omnitrix at a fundamental level, Rook observed, scanning Ben with the proto-tool. Your biometrics are stable, but there are energy patterns I cannot identify. Ben activated the Omnitrix, and the familiar holographic interface appeared, but with subtle differences. The alien silhouettes seemed more detailed, and new information scrolled alongside each option. It's showing me more about each transformation, Ben said, surprised. Not just capabilities, but, I don't know, deeper connections. Like I'm seeing how each alien thinks, not just what they can do. He selected an alien at random and transformed. The green light of transformation now carried threads of amber, and when it cleared, Heat Blast stood in Ben's place, but not quite the Heat Blast he was familiar with. The Pyronite's flame burned with greater intensity, and patterns similar to those that had appeared on Ben's arm now glowed across the magma-like body. Most notably, flame wings extended from his back, reminiscent of the Phoenix silhouette. This is new, Ben said, his voice carrying the characteristic crackle of Heat Blast but with a deeper resonance. He examined his hands, where the flames seemed to flow with greater control and precision. I feel more connected to the fire. Like it's an extension of my thoughts rather than something I have to consciously control. He created a flame in his palm, shaping it effortlessly into complex patterns that would have required significant concentration before. The fire responded to his slightest intention, forming a miniature model of the solar system that orbited above his hand. Fascinating. Drive, Schultz breathed. The Phoenix Covenant theorized that true mastery of transformation required understanding the essence of the form. Not merely wearing it like a costume. It appears their theories were correct, Rook noted, continuing to monitor Ben's readings. The energy efficiency is remarkable. You're generating the same output with approximately 30% less expenditure. Ben reverted to human form, the transformation accompanied by the same emerald amber light. The patterns on his arm glowed, briefly before settling back to their dormant state. We should get this information back to Plumber headquarters, he said, suddenly all business. If the Phoenix technology was awakening on its own, there might be a reason. And I'd really like to know what that Guardian was testing me for. Doctor. Schultz nodded in agreement. My team will continue translating the inscriptions here. There are ambers we haven't accessed yet that might contain answers. As they prepared to leave, the ground trembled again, lighter than before, but unmistakable. Ben looked back at the chamber where the Shadow Guardian had appeared. I don't think that was the only test, he said quietly. Rook followed his gaze. Indeed, in my experience, ancient powerful technology rarely comes without significant complications. Understatement of the century, partner. Ben touched the patterns on his arm thoughtfully. But at least this time, I'm not facing those complications alone. As they walked back toward the transport, neither noticed the small shadow that detached itself from the chamber wall and slithered across the desert sand, moving with purpose toward the horizon. Max Tennyson reviewed the preliminary report with a deepening frown. The holographic display showed Ben's new transformation, the Phoenix-enhanced Omnitrix, and the readings from the archaeological site. And Azimuth still hasn't responded. He asked the communication officer. Negative, Magistrate. His last known location was the Andromeda Galaxy, investigating anomalies in the Universal Translation Matrix. Max sighed, dismissing the display. 20 years of working with his grandson had taught him that Ben had an uncanny ability to find himself at the center of cosmic events. This Phoenix technology could be a powerful asset, or the beginning of another universe-threatening crisis. The door to his office slid open, admitting Ben and Rook. They'd returned from the desert hours ago but had been undergoing thorough medical and technological evaluation since. Clean bill of health, more or less, Ben announced, dropping into a chair. Though the tech division is having a field day trying to figure out exactly what happened to the Omnitrix. And what did happen, exactly? Max asked, studying his grandson carefully. Ben appeared physically unchanged except for the intricate patterns on his forearm, but here was something different in his eyes, a depth of awareness that hadn't been there before. Ben exchanged a glance with Rook before responding. The Phoenix technology didn't replace the Omnitrix, it enhanced it. From what I can tell, it's creating a deeper connection between me and my transformations. The preliminary analysis suggests the Phoenix component is acting as an interface layer, Rook elaborated. It translates Ben's intentions more efficiently and provides access to genetic memory that was previously unavailable. In English, I can do more with my aliens, and I understand them better, Ben simplified. It's like the difference between driving a car and being a car. Max considered this. And the risks? Ben shrugged. Unknown. But when has that ever stopped me before? Ben, Max said with a warning tone. I know. Ben raised his hands in surrender. But seriously, the med team found nothing harmful. If anything, my baseline readings are better than before. Whatever this Phoenix tech is doing, it seems to be working with me, not against me. The Phoenix Covenant appears to have had a different philosophy than modern Galvans, Rook added. They ved in symbiotic technology rather than tools that remain separate from their users. Max turned to the window overlooking the earth below. Dr. Schultz is continuing her translation work. Yes, Rook confirmed. She believes the facility contains information about why the Phoenix technology was placed on Earth and what it was meant to accomplish. Good. I want daily reports. Max turned back to them. In the meantime, you're both on limited duty. No field missions until we better understand these changes. Ben opened his mouth to protest, then closed it, nodding instead. Fair enough. I should keep testing the transformations in controlled conditions. The more we know, the better. Agreed. The training facilities are at your disposal. Max's expression softened slightly. And Ben, be careful. Even beneficial changes can have unexpected consequences. As they left the office, Ben flexed his hand, watching the dormant patterns on his forearm. Limited duty. Not exactly how I plan to spend the week. Perhaps it is for the best, Rook suggested. New capabilities require practice to master effectively. Ben's communicator chimed with an incoming message. He checked the display and raised an eyebrow. Speaking of unexpected consequences, Elena Validus is requesting access to Plumber headquarters. Says she has information about the Phoenix technology. Rook's whiskers twitched with surprise. Elena, we have not heard from her in years, not since the nanite incident. Yeah, and now she shows up right after the Phoenix Omnitrix activates. Ben stared at the message thoughtfully. Coincidence. In my experience, and particularly in your vicinity, coincidences are exceedingly rare, Rook replied dryly. Ben laughed, clapping his partner on the shoulder. And that's why we make such a good team. Let's go see what our old friend has to say. As they headed toward the arrival bay, the patterns on Ben's arm pulsed once with amber light, as though responding to some unheard call. The Phoenix had awakened, and its fire was spreading, reaching out to those connected to its chosen bearer, drawing them into its renewal. The ancient power had returned. The tests had begun. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, Legacy of Fire. The training facility's reinforced walls vibrated with the impact as Ben, transformed into 4 arms, slammed his enhanced Tetraman fists into the target drones. The normally red-skinned alien now bore intricate amber markings across his muscular form, and a subtle corona of energy surrounded each punch, extending his reach and power. Time. Ben called out, his voice deeper than the usual 4 arms transformation. Rook checked the monitor. 17 seconds to neutralize all targets. That is 43% faster than your previous record. Ben landed with surprising grace for the massive form, examining his hands where the Phoenix patterns pulsed with each heartbeat. 3 days had passed since the archaeological discovery, and EAC H transformation revealed new capabilities. It's not just strength, he explained as the last drone crashed to the floor. I can feel exactly where to hit for maximum effect. Like I'm tapping into the combat experience of Tetramans throughout history. Genetic memory, Rook theorized, making notes on his tablet. The Phoenix technology appears to grant access to knowledge embedded in the DNA that the standard Omnitrix transformation process did not fully utilize. The Omnitrix symbol on forearm's shoulder flashed with emerald amber light, and Ben reverted to human form. Unlike the usual transformation, there was no sensation of disorientation. The shift felt seamless, as though both forms were equally natural. Ready for the next test? Rook asked, already programming the simulation chamber. Ben rotated his shoulder, where phantom sensations of forearm's extra appendages lingered. Let's try something different. The enhanced transformations are impressive, but there's something else I want to explore. He activated the Omnitrix, cycling through the holographic display. The Phoenix artifact was created by Galvans who believed in deeper connections between user and technology, right? So what happens if I try? Ben selected Brainstorm, the cerebrocrustacean transformation. As the emerald amber light enveloped him, he concentrated not just on the physical transformation, but on the mental aspects, the analytical thinking and electrical capabilities that defined the species. When the light faded, Brainstorm stood in Ben's place, but with significant differences. The electrical energy that normally crackled around his brain was now patterned with amber streaks, and the shell had intricate Phoenix circuitry etched across its surface. Fascinating, Brainstorm declared, his British accented voice carrying new harmonics. The cognitive enhancement is exponentially greater than previous transformations. I'm experiencing a 78.3% increase in processing capacity. Rook scanned the transformation, eyebrows rising at the readings. The energy patterns suggest you are accessing neural pathways previously dormant in the standard transformation. Indeed. Moreover, Brainstorm paused, his cranium opening to reveal the enhanced brain. Energy patterns flowed across its surface in complex fractals. I appear to be able to process multiple complex problems simultaneously without the usual cognitive strain. To demonstrate, Brainstorm projected electrical equations into the air with his right claw while simultaneously calculating structural improvements to the training facility with his left. Both streams of calculations proceeded at blinding speed. The applications are positively revolutionary. Brainstorm continued. With this level of cognitive function, I could potentially redesign the Omnitrix itself, though I suspect Azimuth might find such tampering mildly irritating. Rook watched with growing concern. Ben, your speech patterns have changed more dramatically than usual. Are you certain you maintain your core identity? The question gave Brainstorm pause. He closed his cranium, the energy patterns stabilizing. An astute observation, partner. I do find myself more immersed in the cerebrocrustacean perspective than previously. However, I assure you that Benjamin Tennyson remains firmly in control. As if to demonstrate, Brainstorm reverted to human form without touching the Omnitrix symbol. The transformation reversed with the same emerald amber light, leaving Ben looking slightly dazed. Whoa, he breathed, steadying himself against the console. That was intense. It's like having a supercomputer in your head and actually knowing how to use all of it. You reverted without physical contact with the Omnitrix, Rook noted, adding this to his growing list of observations. That should not be possible with the standard configuration. Ben looked at his arm where the Phoenix patterns had brightened momentarily before fading back to their dormant state. It's responding to my thoughts more directly now. Less like a tool and more like an extension of yourself, Rook finished. Which is precisely what concerns me. Relax, Ben assured him with a confident smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. I'm still me, just me with better access to what the Omnitrix can really do. Before Rook could respond, the facility's communication system activated. Ben Tennyson and Rook Blonko to Arrival Bay 3. Your visitor has been processed through security. Elena, Ben remembered, almost forgot she was coming. That is unusual for you, Rook observed as they exited the training area. Typically, you would be impatient for her arrival, given your history. Ben shrugged, though his expression became thoughtful. Been a bit distracted with all this Phoenix stuff. Plus, it's been what, 3 years since we last saw her. People change. Rook studied his partner as they walked. Ben's gait had subtly altered since the Phoenix Omnitrix integration. More balanced, more efficient, as though he'd internalized optimal movement patterns from various species. These small changes, combined with occasional lapses in his usual behavior, troubled Rook more than the dramatic new transformation abilities. Indeed they do, he murmured, too quietly for Ben to hear. Elena Validus waited in the reception area, Her posture tense despite her casual attempt to appear relaxed. At 23, she had matured from the troubled teenager who had once been consumed by nanite influence. Her dark hair was cut in a practical shoulder-length style, and she wore a research uniform from the Earth Defense Initiative, a civilian organization that studied alien technology. When she spotted Ben and Rook, her expression shifted through several emotions in quick succession: relief, caution, and something more complex that vanished before it could be identified. "Ben," she greeted, stepping forward. "You look different." Ben grinned, extending his hand. "Good different. You've got weird alien tech integrated with your arm. Different." Elena's eyes fixed on the phoenix patterns visible beneath his rolled-up sleeve. "So it's true. The Covenant technology has bonded with the Omnitrix. You know about the Phoenix Covenant?" Rook asked sharply. Elena's gaze remained on Ben's arm. "May I?" When he nodded, she took his wrist, examining the patterns with a scientist's precision. Her fingers traced the circuitry without quite touching it. "I've been researching them for nearly 2 years. NT Galvan separatists who believed technology should enhance natural biology rather than remain separate from it. That matches what drive." Schultz translated from the archaeological site, Rook confirmed. "How did you come across this information?" Elena released Ben's arm reluctantly. "We should talk somewhere private. What I have to share is complicated." Ben led them to a secure briefing room, using his plumber clearance to ensure privacy. Once the door sealed behind them, Elena placed a data crystal on the table. 2 years ago, the EDI detected unusual energy signatures at several ancient sites around Earth, subtle pulses that matched no known technology. The crystal projected images of locations ranging from desert ruins to underwater structures. "We discovered references to mething called the Phoenix Protocol, a system designed by the Covenant to activate after a predetermined period of dormancy. Like an alarm clock set for 40,000 years, Ben suggested, leaning against the table. "More like a chrysalis," Elena corrected. "The technology was meant to evolve during its dormancy, integrating with the planet's development. When the time came, it would seek a suitable host. And you believe this host to be Ben," Rook stated more than asked. Elena nodded, bringing up a new set of projections, energy signatures that matched the patterns on Ben's arm. The protocol was designed to bond with a being who already had experience with transformation technology. The Omnitrix made you the ideal candidate. Ben studied the projections. "So this thing was waiting for someone like me all along. Talk about playing the long game. The Covenant operated on different timescales than modern Galvans," Elena explained. "They believed true technological advancement required patience and evolutionary integration." She hesitated before continuing. "There's more. The Phoenix Protocol isn't just about enhancing the Omnitrix, it's part of a larger system designed to prepare for something the Covenant called the Convergence." "Define convergence," Rook requested, his concern evident. "That's where it gets frustrating," Elena admitted. "Our translations are incomplete. We know it involves multiple technological nodes activating simultaneously, but the purpose, whether defensive, exploratory, or something else entirely, remains unclear." Ben's fingers tapped against the table, the phoenix patterns briefly pulsing in sync with his heartbeat. "And how do your nanites fit into all this?" Elena's expression tightened momentarily. "You always were perceptive when it mattered." She took a deep breath before continuing. "The nanites in my system have been responding to the Phoenix energy since the protocol began activating. They're drawn to it, like moths to flame." She held out her hand, concentrating. Tiny metallic particles rose from her skin, forming a miniature replica of the Phoenix symbol. "I've gained better control, but also new capabilities. The nanites seem to recognize the Covenant technology as kindred." "That shouldn't be possible," Rook noted. "The nanites originated from modern Earth technology, not ancient Galvan designs." "Unless the Phoenix Protocol has been influencing Earth technology all along," Ben suggested. "Subtle nudges over thousands of years, guiding development toward compatible systems." Elena looked at him with surprise. "That's exactly what our research suggests. You're thinking differently, Ben." "Phoenix upgrade," he explained, tapping his temple. "Better access to the knowledge in the Omnitrix. But that still doesn't explain why you're here now." Elena dispersed the nanite construction, the particles reabsorbing into her skin. Because 3 days ago, when the protocol fully activated, every nanite in my system went haywire. They're being called, Ben, drawn toward something that's awakening. And I'm not the only one. She activated another projection showing global hotspots, areas WHER. Unusual technological activity had been detected since the Phoenix Omnitrix activated. Something is coming. The convergence is beginning, and you're at the center of it. Ben exchanged a glance with Rook. And here I thought monitor duty was going to be boring. Max Tennyson studied Elena's data with the measured caution of a man who had seen too many world-ending crises begin with unusual energy readings. The Plumber Command Center hummed with activity as analysts processed the information, correlating it with their own monitoring systems. The pattern is consistent with our observations, Max acknowledged. We've detected similar anomalies at 17 locations globally, all corresponding to ancient ruins or technological repositories. The question is whether these activations represent a threat, Rook said, highlighting several locations where energy levels were increasing most rapidly. Elena shook her head. The Covenant wasn't hostile. Their philosophy centered on balance and symbiotic relationships. Whatever the convergence is meant to accomplish, destruction doesn't align with their known principles. Principles can change over 40,000 years, Max pointed out, or be misinterpreted by those who discover the technology. Ben had remained uncharacteristically quiet, studying the global map with intense focus. The phoenix patterns on his arm pulsed, subtly as his eyes tracked between locations. They're connected, he said suddenly. Not just by the energy signature, but by purpose. Each site corresponds to a specific type of alien DNA in the Omnitrix. The others turned to him in surprise. Ben approached the holographic display, hand hovering over various markers. This one in the Arctic, it resonates with polar Manzardil DNA. The Underwa Chair site near Japan connects to Piscis DNA. They're not random. They're deliberately aligned with specific transformative potential. How could you possibly know that? Elena asked, though her expression suggested she already suspected the answer. Ben looked at his arm, where the patterns had brightened. The Phoenix Omnitrix is showing me. It's like having access to the original blueprint for the whole system. Max exchanged a concerned glance with Rook. Ben, are you sensing any directives or compulsions from the Phoenix technology? It's not controlling me, if that's what you're asking, Ben replied. Though he paused before continuing. But it is, suggesting. Like having an extremely knowledgeable guide who really wants to show you something important. That aligns with Covenant philosophy, Elena noted. They designed their technology to inform rather than command, to suggest rather than control. Nevertheless, Max said firmly, I want continuous monitoring of these sites and Ben's condition. If the Phoenix Protocol is building towards something significant, we need to understand it before it fully manifests. An alert chimed, drawing their attention to one of the monitoring stations. A technician looked up with concern. Magistrate, we're detecting unusual activity at the Siberian node. Energy levels have spiked by 300% in the last 5 minutes. The MI-N display shifted to satellite imagery of a remote area in the Siberian wilderness. A dome of amber energy had formed above what appeared to be an ancient structure partially buried in the permafrost. That's a defense response, Ben said with certainty. The node is protecting itself. From what? Rook asked. The satellite image zoomed in, revealing figures moving around the perimeter of the energy dome. Their distinctive armor was immediately recognizable. Forever Knights, Max identified grimly. Looks like we're not the only ones interested in ancient technology. Ben was already moving toward the exit. We need to get there now. If they breach that node, they could destabilize the entire network. Agreed, Max said, but this is observation only, Ben. Assess the situation and report back before engaging. Of course, Ben agreed too quickly. Rook and I will handle it. Elena, you should come too. Your knowledge of the Covenant and nanite interaction could be useful. Elena nodded. My equipment's already on board your ship. I anticipated field work might be necessary. As they departed, Max activated his communicator. This is Magistrate Tennyson. I want a full team. On standby for immediate deployment to Siberia. And get me any available information on recent Forever Night activities. This incursion seems too well timed to be coincidental. Dash dash dash. The plumber craft cut through the upper atmosphere, its advanced propulsion system pushing the limits of stealth technology. In the cockpit, Ben piloted with a precision that surprised even Rook, who had grown accused to his partner's improving skills over the years. Your flight pattern is remarkably efficient, Rook observed. I do not recall you demonstrating such mastery of the craft's capabilities before. Ben's hands moved across the controls with fluid certainty. The Phoenix connection is giving me better access to my gray matter and brainstorm knowledge even in human form. I'm seeing flight trajectories and fuel consumption ratios I never noticed before. From the passenger seat behind them, Elena watched Ben with scientific interest. Persistent cross-form knowledge retention was one of the Covenant's primary goals. They considered the standard transformation technology too compartmentalized, limiting the user's growth by creating distinct separations between forms. It is impressive, Rook acknowledged, but also concerning. The lines between your transformations and your human self appear to be blurring. Is that really a bad thing? Ben asked, adjusting their course to avoid detection by Earth's satellite network. I've been transforming into aliens for over a decade. Maybe it's time those experiences actually integrated instead of just being memories. Elena leaned forward. The Covenant would agree. They believed true mastery came from synthesis, becoming more than the sum of your parts rather than switching between separate identities. Which is precisely why as Muth designed the Omnitrix with specific limitations, Rook countered. Cross-contamination between alien DNA and the user's baseline form could have unpredictable consequences. Ben smiled faintly. Azimuth also thought giving the Omnitrix to a 10-year-old human was the worst possible scenario, and that worked out pretty well. After nearly destroying the universe multiple times, Rook reminded him dryly. Their good-natured debate was interrupted as the craft's sensors detected their approach to the Siberian site. Ben activated the cloaking system, bringing them in low over the vast taiga forest. Below, the amber energy dome shimmered against the snow-covered landscape, surrounded by Forever Night equipment and personnel. Looks like they brought serious hardware, Ben observed. NTING at least 20 knights and several large drilling machines. They're trying to penetrate the dome with some kind of focused energy beam. Elena studied the readings. The node is holding, but the Knight's technology is more advanced than their usual medieval-themed toys. Those energy signatures suggest hybrid components. They have been increasingly incorporating alien technology into their arsenal, Rook noted. After their last defeat, many factions abandoned the pretense of pure Earth technology. Ben set the craft down in a clearing 2 kilometers from the site, maintaining cloak. Let's get closer on foot and assess. Remember, observation only. He winked at Rook, who responded with a skeptical expression. As they prepared to disembark, Ben activated the Omnitrix. Going big chill for recon. The Phoenix enhancement should give me better camouflage capabilities. The emerald amber light enveloped him, and Big Chill emerged, but like all Phoenix-enhanced transformations, with significant differences. The Necrophrygian's blue coloration now contained patterns reminiscent of frost crystals, and the wings bore intricate designs that seemed to bend light around them. Most notably, the usual chill aura was completely contained, leaving no temperature signature. Perfect stealth, Ben's whispery voice observed. I can control every molecule of cold energy instead of just the general output. Impressive, Elena admitted, checking her equipment. The nanites are definitely responding to your transformation energy. They're becoming more active. Is that going to be a problem? Rook asked, adjusting his proto-tool to sniper configuration. Elena shook her head. Not now that I understand what's happening. They're attempting to synchronize with the Phoenix frequency, which actually gives me better control than ever before. She demonstrated by extending her hand, allowing nanites to flow into a thin protective layer across her skin. Programmable armor should help with the cold. They moved through the forest with practiced efficiency, Big Chill gliding silently above the tree line, Rook advancing with trained precision, and Elena following with surprising stealth for a scientist. As they approached the Forever Night position, they paused to assess the situation. The Knights had established a perimeter around the energy dome, with guard posts and scanning equipment positioned strategically. The central drilling apparatus pulsed with energy that struck the dome in concentrated bursts, creating ripples across its surface. They're making progress, Elena whispered, checking readings on her portable scanner. The dome's structural integrity is down to 78% and falling. Big Chill drifted closer, his enhanced invisibility rendering him completely undetectable. Through the dome's translucent surface, he could see the outline of a structure resembling a temple, with a central spire that pulsed in rhythm with the phoenix patterns on his transformed body. The node houses a genetic repository, he reported, returning to their position. Specifically focused on cold-adapted species from across the galaxy. The Covenant was studying evolutio. Nary convergence across different worlds. How do you know that? Rook asked. The Phoenix Omnitrix is communicating with the node, Big Chill explained. Not in words, but in concepts. Impressions. Like recognizing the purpose of a building just by looking at its architecture. A loud crack echoed across the clearing as one of the night's energy beams created a visible fracture in the dome. Alarms began blaring from their equipment. Sir, we've breached the outer containment field. One knight called to a figure in more elaborate armor, presumably their commander. Excellent. Prepare the extraction team. Remember, we need the core technology intact, the commander ordered, his voice carrying in the clear winter air. Big Chill's compound eyes narrowed. They know exactly what they're looking for. This isn't a random raid, they have specific intelligence about the Covenant technology. Which should not be possible, Rook noted with concern. This information has been classified at the highest level. Elena's expression darkened. Unless they have a source within the archaeological team or the plumbers themselves. Another energy pulse struck the dome, widening the fracture. Inside, the temple structure began emitting a more intense light, pulsing rapidly like a heartbeat under stress. It's activating defensive measures, Big Chill observed. But they won't hold against sustained attack. We need to intervene. Rook raised an eyebrow. I thought this was observation only. That was before they started breaking into a 40,000-year-old alien facility with unknown capabilities. Big Chill countered. If that node destabilizes uncontrolled, it could affect the entire network, including whatever's connected to this. He gestured to the Omnitrix symbol on his chest. Elena checked her scanner again. He's right. The node's energy patterns are becoming erratic. If it's housing genetic material as Ben suggests, a catastrophic failure could release unknown biological agents into the environment. Quote, Rook considered their options. Very well, but we proceed with caution. Our primary objective is to stabilize the node, not engage the knights directly if it can be avoided. Big Chill nodded, frost forming briefly around his mouth in what might have been a smile. I'll create a diversion. Rook, target their drilling equipment. Elena, can your nanites interface with the dome to reinforce the fracture? Elena flexed her hand, nanites flowing between her fingers. Theoretically, yes. The Phoenix energy signature is compatible with my control systems. Good. Move on my signal. Big Chill rose into the air, wings spreading to their full impressive span. And remember, we're professionals. Let's make this look easy. The Forever Knight Commander stood before the fracturing dome with satisfaction. Years of searching, of piecing together fragments of ancient knowledge, were about to pay off. The Covenant technology would revolutionize their Pawns development program, allowing them to create defenses specifically targeted at alien physiologies. Sir, extraction team is ready, his lieutenant reported. Proceed. Remember, the central crystal. Al must be. His order was cut short as an unnatural shadow passed overhead, followed by a bone-chilling cold that froze the moisture in the air instantly. Big Chill materialized above them, but not the knights had seen necrophrygians before. This one's wings extended into magnificent patterns that seemed to pull light and heat from the surroundings, and frost formations spread across the ground. In intricate designs wherever his shadow touched. Sorry to crash the party, Big Chill's ethereal voice echoed. But this exhibit is closed for renovation. Tennyson. The commander snarled. Open fire. Energy weapons discharged toward the hovering figure, but Big Chill phased, allowing the blasts to pass harmlessly through his intangible form. His response came in the form of precisely target ice beams that encased the drilling equipment's power sources in thick blocks of crystal-clear ice. Simultaneously, Rook's expert shots disabled the remaining energy projectors with surgical precision. The knights scrambled for cover, their formation dissolving into chaos. Elena used the distraction to approach the dome, pressing her palm against its fractured surface. Nanites flowed from her skin, spreading across the break-like liquid metal before hardening into a temporary patch. The dome's energy interfaced with the nanites, recognizing their Phoenix-influenced programming. Connection established, she reported through her communicator. I'm redirecting power to the containment systems, but this is a temporary fix at best. Inside the dome, the temple structure's lights stabilized somewhat, though they continued to pulse with urgency. Big Chill phased through the knight's defensive line, freezing weapons and equipment as he passed. Fall back and regroup. The commander ordered his forces. Deploy the null field generators. That command caught Big Chill's attention. Null field technology was designed to disrupt transformation matrices, specifically targeting Omnitrix functions. It was sophisticated technology that the knights shouldn't possess. Rook, they have null field tech, he warned. We need to end this quickly. Understood, Rook acknowledged, already are. Positioning to target the generators being moved into place. Elena's voice came through with concern. Ben, the node is communicating with me through the nanites. It's offering something, a data packet of some kind. Can you accept it safely? Big Chill asked, freezing another knight's armor joints. I think so. The formatting is compatible with, she gasped as the nanites on her arm reconfigured, forming a small receptor array. It's transferring now. The knights deployed their null field generators, and a wave of disruptive energy spread across the clearing. Big Chill felt the Phoenix Omnitrix respond. The transformation briefly flickering as the field interfered with its functions. That shouldn't be working, he muttered, dropping lower to the ground where the field was weaker. They've specifically calibrated it for the Omnitrix frequency. The commander stepped forward, a smugness evident even through his helmet. We've been studying you for years, Tennyson. Did we wouldn't adapt our technology to counter your specific abilities. Big Chill's form flickered again, the Phoenix pattern struggling to maintain stability. Rook, take out those generators now. Rook fired precisely, disabling one generator, but there were 3 others positioned around the perimeter. The knights converged on Elena's position, recognizing her interface with the dome as a threat to their operation. The girl is connecting with the artifact. Stop her, the commander ordered. Elena looked up, her eyes now glowing with the same amber light as the Phoenix patterns. Transfer complete, she announced, though her voice carried harmonics that weren't entirely her own. Initiating protocol safeguard, the nanites spread from her hand across the entire dome surface, reinfo. RCing it with a secondary layer that pulsed with combined nanite Phoenix energy. The fracture began to heal, closing like a wound under accelerated treatment. The null field intensified, and Big Chill could no longer maintain his form. The transformation collapsed, leaving Ben kneeling on the snow. However, instead of being completely vulnerable as the knights expected, the Phoenix patterns on his arm blazed with light. Nice try, Ben said, rising to his feet as amber energy formed a protective aura around him. But the Phoenix tech doesn't play by the same rules as the standard Omnitrix. He pressed his hand to the Omnitrix symbol, but instead of selecting a new transformation, he channeled the Phoenix energy directly. The result was unexpected. A hybrid form materialized, combining elements of Big Chill with Heat Blast, creating a being of contrasting energies that the null field couldn't properly target. What is that? One knight exclaimed as the temperature around them fluctuated wildly, areas of intense cold interspersed with pockets of searing heat. Innovation, Ben replied, his voice echoing with multiple harmonics. His new form, a blue-flamed entity with frost patterns grew. NNING through the fire, moved with fluid grace, neutralizing the remaining null field generators with alternating blasts of cold fire. The commander recognized the battle was lost. Tactical retreat. Secure what data we've collected. As the knights withdrew toward their transport vehicles, Rook joined Ben near the dome, staring at his unprecedented hybrid form with open surprise. That should not be possible, he stated. The Omnitrix is designed specifically to prevent DNA mixing. The Phoenix Omnitrix sees the genetic codes differently, Ben explained, examining his unusual form with fascination. Not as separate entities to switch between, but as a spectrum of possibilities to draw from. Elena approached, the glow in her eyes fading though nanites still flowed across her skin in agitated patterns. The node transferred critical data to me. The Covenant built redundancies into their system. Each node contains information about the others as well as its specific function. What exactly was this place protecting? Rook asked, gesturing toward the now stable dome. A genetic archive specializing in cold adaptation across species, Elena explained. But it's also a key component in the convergence network. If the Knights had breached it fully, they could have gained access to the entire system through the backdoor protocols. Ben's hybrid form dissipated, returning him to human appearance as the phoenix patterns on his arm gradually dimmed. They knew exactly what they were after. Someone's been feeding them very specific information about the Covenant technology. Indeed, Rook agreed grimly. And given the Knights' resources, this will not be their only attempt. Elena's nanites retracted, though she swayed slightly from the exertion. The node is secure for now, but it's fully activated. According to the data I received, that means the convergence countdown has begun. Countdown to what? Ben asked, steadying her with a hand on her shoulder. That's still unclear, but all active nodes are now on a synchronized timetable. Whatever the convergence is meant to accomplish, it will happen in approximately 72 hours. Ben looked at the dome, where the temple inside had settled into a steady pulsing rhythm that matched exactly with the phoenix patterns on his arm. Then we have 3 days to figure it out, he said with determination. Let's get back to headquarters and compare notes with Dr. Schultz. If anyone can translate the remaining Covenant records in time, it's her. As they headed back toward their craft, none of them noticed the small drone hovering high above, recording everything that had transpired. The Forever Night retreat had been tactical indeed. They had gained precisely the data they needed. Back at Plumber headquarters, Max reviewed the mission footage with growing concern. Ben's hybrid transformation represented a fundamental shift in how the Omnitrix operated, something even Azimuth hadn't envisioned in his design. The Phoenix technology is rewriting the core Omnitrix protocols, he observed to Dr. Schultz, who had joined them via holographic conference from the archaeological site. That level of integration wasn't supposed to be possible. Dr. Schultz's projection nodded, excitement warring with scientific caution in her expression. The Covenant operated from a completely different technological paradigm. Where Azimuth created systems with defined boundaries and safeguards, they created adaptive frameworks that evolved with use. Is it dangerous? Max asked directly. Dr. Schultz considered carefully before answering. Not inherently, but it is transformative in ways we don't fully understand yet. The Phoenix Protocol appears to be accelerating Ben's development, integrating his years of experience with the Omnitrix into a more unified whole. And this convergence that Elena mentioned, we've uncovered references to it in several chamber inscriptions. Drive. Schultz confirmed. It appears to be the culmination of the Phoenix Protocol, a synchronized activation of all Covenant sites to achieve some greater purpose. However, the nature of that purpose remains elusive. Max turned as Ben, Rook, and Elena entered the command center, fresh from debriefing. Ben looked tired but energized, the phoenix patterns on his arm glimmering subtly beneath his sleeve. Grandpa, we need to coordinate global protection for all identified nodes, Ben said without preamble. The Knights knew exactly what they were doing, and they'll try again. Already in progress, Max assured him. Plumber teams have been deployed to secure each location. But we still don't understand what happens when the convergence activates. Elena stepped forward, her handheld device projecting the data transferred from the Siberian node. Based on what I received, the convergence requires all nodes plus the Phoenix Omnitrix to be in synchronized alignment. It's designed to create some kind of planetary scale effect. What kind of effect? Rook asked the question everyone was thinking. The data is fragmented, Elena admitted. But it relates to evolutionary acceleration and stability. The Covenant was concerned about something they called divergence potential, future scenarios where evolution could take devastating turns. Ben's brow furrowed. So they created a system to, what? Guide evolution, prevent certain outcomes. It appears so. Drive. Schultz's hologram confirmed. My team has translated references to corrective measures and harmonic realignment. The Covenant was playing an extraordinarily long game, seeding technology that would activate when Earth reached a specific developmental stage. Which is now, apparently, Max noted dryly. Ben stared at the global map showing all identified Covenant nodes. These are just the sites we know about. How many more might be out there, waiting to activate? According to the Siberian data, there should be 23 nodes total, Elena answered. We've identified 17. Then finding the remaining sites is our priority, Max decided. Along with understanding exactly what happens when the convergence completes. Ben's hand moved unconsciously to his arm, tracing the Phoenix patterns through his sleeve. I think I might be able to help with that. The Phoenix Omnitrix has been showing me visions. Fragments of memories that aren't mine. All eyes turned to him with varying degrees of concern. What kind of visions? Max asked cautiously. Glimpses of ancient Galvan scientists. Conversations about Earth's potential. Something about a threat that occurs cyclically, every few 100,000 years. Ben's expression was distant, as though seeing things beyond the room. They were afraid of something. Something they'd observed on other worlds. Can you access these memories deliberately? Dr. Schultz asked, scientific curiosity evident in her voice. Ben hesitated. Maybe. They seem to see. When I'm connecting deeply with a transformation, or when I'm near one of the nodes. It's like the Phoenix technology is gradually sharing the Covenant's knowledge as it decides I'm ready for it. That aligns with their philosophy of gradual integration, Elena noted. The Covenant believed that advanced knowledge should be earned through experience rather than simply granted. Max didn't look reassured. Ben, I want you to work with Dr. Schultz. See if you can access more of these memories in a controlled setting. Rook, coordinate with global teams to locate the remaining nodes. Elena, I'd like your help analyzing the Siberian data more thoroughly. As the meeting dispersed, Rook pulled Ben aside. Are you certain you are well? These visions, are they intrusive? Disorienting? Ben smiled at his partner's concern. I'm fine, really. It's more like remembering something I learned long ago. They feel natural, not forced. Nevertheless, proceed with caution, Rook advised. He Forever Knight's interest in this technology suggests its potential goes beyond what we currently understand. Always do, Ben replied, though the confident grin didn't quite reach his eyes. Something about the Phoenix memories troubled him, a sense of urgency, of time running short. Whatever the Covenant had feared, its shadow still loomed 40,000 years later. And somehow, he knew he'd seen it before. Ben sat cross-legged in the center of the archaeology team's research tent, surrounded by artifact fragments arranged in a circular pattern. Dr. Schultz had suggested that proximity to multiple Covenant items might strengthen his connection to the Phoenix memories. Comfortable? Dr. Schultz asked, adjusting monitoring equipment that would record any changes in his biometrics or the Phoenix patterns. As much as I can be, Ben replied, rolling his shoulders to release tension. This feels like meditation. Rook's been trying to get me to do this for years. Dr. Schultz smiled. Sometimes the oldest techniques are still the most effective. Focus on your breathing first, then gradually turn your attention to the Phoenix patterns. Don't force anything, just observe. Ben closed his eyes, following her instructions. His breathing slowed, and he became aware of sensations he normally filtered out. The subtle hum of the Phoenix patterns, the faint vibrations from the artifact fragments. The distant pulse of the Covenant facility buried beneath them. As his awareness expanded, the Phoenix energy responded, warming against his skin. The patterns began to glow through his closed eyelids. And the boundary between observation and memory blurred. The laboratory stretched before him, filled with equipment he recognized as Galvan in origin but with designs he'd never seen before. Small gray figures moved with purpose between workstations, their eyes occasionally flashing with amber light similar to the Phoenix patterns. One Galvan stood apart from the others, taller, with markings that denoted leadership. When he spoke, Ben understood despite the ancient dialect being used. The simulations confirm our fears, the leader stated, gesturing to projections showing planetary systems. The cycle is accelerating. The Cronian predictions were accurate. Another Galvan approached, this one with a more skeptical bearing. Actives doubts the fundamental premise, mentor. Their calculations suggest the divergence is natural, part of the universal pattern. Actives always prioritizes non-intervention, mentor replied with a tone suggesting an old disagreement. But we've seen the results on 17 test worlds now. Without corrective measures, the divergence leads to system-wide devastation within 3 generations. Asterisk. The skeptical Galvan gestured to a specific projection, Earth. Ben somehow knew. This world shows promise. The indigenous species demonstrates remarkable adaptability, and the genetic potential is significant. But your proposal requires 40 millennia of preparation. None of us will witness the results. Asterisk. That is precisely why we must proceed, Mentor insisted. The Phoenix Protocol transcends our lifetimes. It is our gift to a future we will never see. If we succeed, this world will become the balancing point, the keystone species that can withstand what's coming. Asterisk. The scene shifted, moving forward in time. The laboratory had changed, now housing a device Ben recognized as the Phoenix artifact before it had bonded with his Omnitrix. Asterisk. The final calibrations are complete, Mentor announced to a smaller group. The protocol has been programmed with all available data regarding the cycle and potential countermeasures. The integration with transformation technology will grant the selected bearer access to the collective knowledge they'll need. And if the Phoenix chooses poorly? One assistant asked. Asterisk. Then all is lost, Mentor replied simply. But we have designed the selection parameters carefully. The Phoenix will awaken when the cycle begins again, and it will seek one who has already embraced transformation as a path to understanding. One who values life in all its forms. Asterisk. A younger Galvan entered, carrying data crystals. The node placement is complete, Mentor. All 23 points have been calibrated to the planetary energy grid. Asterisk. Excellent, Mentor said, approaching what appeared to be a stasis chamber. Then it is time for me to make my contribution. Asterisk. The others stepped back respectfully as Mentor entered the chamber. My consciousness patterns will guide the Phoenix when it awakens. My experiences, my knowledge, all that I am will become part of the protocol's guidance system. Asterisk. Is that necessary? The skeptical Galvan asked. The Phoenix AI should be sufficient. Asterisk. AI lacks understanding of choice, of sacrifice, Mentor replied. For the bearer to succeed, they will need more than data, they will need wisdom born of experience. Asterisk. The chamber activated, amber energy flowing around Mentor's form. His body remained, but something essential seemed to transfer to the Phoenix artifact, which pulsed with new vitality. Asterisk. It is done, Mentor said, his voice noticeably weaker. When the time comes, I will guide the chosen one toward convergence. And perhaps, if we have calculated correctly, toward survival. Asterisk. The skeptic approached the chamber as Mentor emerged. And the threat, you're certain it's returning. Asterisk. The Cronians are never wrong about time, Mentor said gravely. The cycle has held for millions of years across thousands of worlds. The hunters always return. Our only hope is to evolve beyond their reach. Asterisk. The laboratory began to fade, the memory fragmenting as though parts were still locked away. The last clear image was of Earth, surrounded by a protective field of amber energy, the completed convergence that the Covenant had designed. Asterisk. Ben gasped as his consciousness returned to the present, the Phoenix patterns, blazing with light that gradually dimmed as he stabilized. Dr. Schultz was beside him, concern evident as she checked his vital signs. Ben, are you all right? You were in a trance state for nearly 40 minutes. He blinked, the laboratory still superimposed over reality for a moment before fading. I saw them. The Covenant. Their leader. Mentor. He uploaded his consciousness into the Phoenix Protocol to guide whoever it chose. Dr. Schultz handed him water, which he drank gratefully. What was their purpose? Why create this elaborate system? Protection, Ben replied, his voice hoarse. Why detected some kind of cyclical threat, something they called the Hunters, that returns every few 100,000 years. The convergence is meant to prepare Earth to withstand it. Hunters. Dr. Schultz repeated. Did you see what they were? Ben shook his head. That part was blocked, like the Phoenix is releasing information in stages. But whatever they are, they've destroyed thousands of worlds across millions of years. The Covenant believed Earth had potential to survive where others failed, because of the genetic diversity. Dr. Schultz suggested. Not just that, because of beings like me, those who can transform, adapt, understand multiple species from the inside. Ben looked at the Phoenix patterns thoughtfully. The Omnitrix wasn't a coincidence. Azimuth may not have known it, but his creation aligned perfectly with what the Covenant planned millennia ago. Dr. Schultz made notes rapidly. This changes our understanding completely. The convergence isn't just activating a ancient technology, it's preparing Earth for some kind of external threat. A threat that's due to arrive soon, Ben added. The cycle is predictable, that's why the Phoenix Protocol activated now. The hunters are coming. He stood, somewhat unsteadily. We need to tell the others. And we need to find those remaining nodes before the Knights do. If the convergence fails because parts of the network are compromised, Earth would be defenseless. Drive. Schultz finished grimly. As they prepared to return to headquarters, Ben paused, a memory from his childhood suddenly surfacing with unusual clarity. 10-year-old Ben sat on a fallen log beside 11-year-old Elena, both of them watching shooting stars streak across the summer sky during a camping trip. Their families had set up nearby, but the two children had wandered to this small clearing for a better view. Asterisk. My dad says some shooting stars aren't really stars at all, Elena explained knowledgeably. They're space rocks burning up in the atmosphere. Asterisk. I bet some are aliens, Ben countered, always ready to imagine more exciting possibilities. Coming to visit Earth. Asterisk. Elena considered this seriously. If aliens visited, what would you say to them? Asterisk. Ben thought for a moment, his face scrunched in concentration. I'd ask if they wanted to play baseball. Everyone should learn baseball. Asterisk. Elena laughed, the sound carrying through the quiet forest. That's so you, Ben. Asterisk. A particularly bright streak crossed the sky, lasting longer than the others. Both children tracked it with wide eyes until it disappeared beyond the horizon. Asterisk. That one was definitely an alien, Ben declared with certainty. Asterisk. How do you know? Elena challenged. Asterisk. Because it was looking for something, Ben replied, surprising himself with the conviction in his voice. It was searching. Asterisk. Elena studied him curiously. Searching for what? Asterisk. The young Ben turned to her, his expression suddenly serious in a way that seemed beyond his years. For us. For Earth. Asterisk. The moment passed, and Ben was a child again, jumping up to chase a firefly. But Elena remained seated, watching her friend with a thoughtful expression that suggested. She'd glimpsed something significant in that brief exchange. Asterisk. The memory faded, leaving Ben standing in the present with a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. That night had been 20 years ago, but the certainty he'd felt then returned with new context. Somehow, even as a child, he had sensed what was coming. The hunters were searching, and soon, they would find what they sought. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Royal Engagement. The Plumber headquarters hummed with unprecedented activity. In the 3 days since Ben's vision of the Covenant's purpose, the facility had transformed into a planetary defense coordination center. Holographic displays showed the 17 confirmed Phoenix nodes, each now protected by Plumber security teams reinforced with specific alien specialists. Ben stood before the central command table, tracing energy connection lines between nodes with his finger. The Phoenix patterns on his forearm pulsed subtly as they had done constantly since his meditation session, responding to his focused attention on the network. The pattern isn't random, he muttered, more to himself than to Max and Rook who stood nearby. It's mapping something fundamental. Earth's ley lines, perhaps, Rook suggested, adjusting the display to overlay theoretical energy channels that certain cultures had identified throughout history. Bigger than that, Ben's eyes narrowed as he manipulated the hologram, expanding it to show Earth's position in the solar system. It's about planetary alignment and gravitational harmonics. The nodes are positioned to create resonance with specific cosmic frequencies. Max exchanged a concerned glance with Rook. These insights continued to emerge from Ben with increasing frequency, knowledge he shouldn't possess without years of specialized study. Ben, Max began carefully, how much of this understanding is coming from you, and how much from the Phoenix consciousness? Ben looked up, momentarily confused by the question. It's hard to separate. The information just feels available, like remembering something I've always known. He rubbed his temple. Mentor's memories are becoming more accessible, but they're fragmentary, like reading a book with pages missing. Mentor being the Covenant leader who uploaded his consciousness to guide the Phoenix Bearer, Rook clarified, making notes on his tablet. He was trying to prepare Earth for something specific, Ben confirmed. The hunters he mentioned operate on a predictable cycle. They've been harvesting evolved worlds for millions of years. Harvesting for what purpose? Max asked. Ben's expression darkened. That part is still blocked. The Phoenix Protocol is releasing information progressively, probably to avoid overwhelming the bearer. An alert chimed from the communications console. The duty officer looked up with surprise. Magistrate Tennyson, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Koros Royal Fleet. They're requesting permission to enter Earth space under diplomatic protocol. Koros. Max's eyebrows rose. The Tetramans haven't sent an official delegation to Earth in over a decade. Ben straightened, suddenly alert. It's Looma. It has to be. Princess Looma Redwind? Rook asked, recalling their previous encounters with the Tetraman warrior princess who had once claimed Ben as her betrothed through Tetraman custom. The transmission confirms it's the royal yacht carrying Princess Looma, the communications officer reported. They're citing ancient alliance protocols and requesting immediate audience. Max stroked his chin thoughtfully. The timing is unlikely to be coincidental. News of the Phoenix Protocol must have reached Koros. Information spreads quickly through interstellar channels, Rook noted, particularly when it involves technology as potentially significant as the Covenant's work. Ben's hand moved unconsciously to his forearm, tracing the Phoenix patterns through his sleeve. Grant them permission. If Looma's coming personally instead of sending representatives, it's important. Agreed. Max nodded to the communications officer. Authorize their approach and prepare the diplomatic reception area. Full honors for a royal visit. As preparations began, Ben moved to a quieter corner of the command center, Rook following with evident concern. Are you certain meeting Princess Looma is wise? The Ravanagander asked quietly. Your history with her is complicated. Ben smiled faintly. That's one way to put it. But that was years ago, Rook. We parted on decent terms after she realized I wasn't what she really wanted in a husband. Nevertheless, Tetraman cultural memory is long, and their concept of honor complex, Rook cautioned. Her arrival now, when you have acquired powerful new technology, suggests political motives rather than personal ones. Probably, Ben agreed, surprising his partner with his insight. But politics matter right now. If the hunters are real, Earth will need allies, especially warriors as formidable as Tetramans. Rook studied Ben closely. You continue to demonstrate unusual strategic thinking. The Phoenix INF. Luance appears to be enhancing your diplomatic awareness as well. Is that a fancy way of saying I'm normally clueless about politics? Ben asked with a grin that momentarily resembled his younger, more carefree self. I would never suggest such a thing, Rook replied, whiskers twitching with suppressed amusement. Merely that your approach to interspecies relations has historically been more improvised. Ben laughed, clapping his partner on the shoulder. Come on, let's get ready for our royal visitor. Something tells me this isn't going to be a simple reunion. Princess Looma Redwind stood on the command deck of her royal yacht, forearms crossed over her armored chest as she watched Earth grow larger in the viewscreen. At 27 in Earth years, she had matured into an imp. Osing figure even by Tetraman standards. Her crimson skin bore the ceremonial markings of a battle commander, and the royal crest of House Redwind adorned her shoulder armor. Unlike her last visit to this planet, she now wore the formal regalia of a diplomatic representative, though the massive warhammer magnetically attached to her back made it clear diplomacy had its limits. Your Highness, her chief advisor, Gorvin, approached with a data tablet. The plumbers have granted us landing clearance and diplomatic status. They're preparing a formal reception. As they should, Looma replied, her voice deep but controlled. Years of royal training had tempered her once impulsive nature, though the fire in her 4 eyes still betrayed her warrior heart. Is Tennyson included in the reception party? The message confirms he will be present, along with Magistrate Tennyson and senior plumber officials. Gorvin hesitated before continuing. Our intelligence regarding the Phoenix technology has been confirmed. The images show integration patterns consistent with ancient records. Looma nodded thoughtfully. Then the legends were true. The Covenant did leave their technology on Earth. She uncrossed her lower arms and moved closer to the viewscreen. My grandfather believed the stories were just myths, tales to entertain children. But my father always insisted otherwise. Warler. D. Red Wind's historical research was visionary, Gorvin acknowledged. His recovery of the Tetraman ancestral chronicles provided the first concrete evidence of covenant interaction with our species. And now those chronicles may be our most valuable diplomatic asset, Looma said, turning away from the viewport. Prepare the sealed archives for presentation. If Tennyson has truly bonded with the Phoenix Protocol, he will need what we bring. As her staff hurried to comply, Looma lingered a moment longer, watching the blue planet below. Her last visit had ended with embarrassment, a princess rejected, forced to acknowledge that her chosen mate had never intended to honor the engagement. The memory still stung, though she had long since recognized the mismatch would have been disastrous for both their peoples. Now she returned not as a spurned bride but as a royal emissary with crucial information. The political landscape had shifted dramatically, and House Red Wind's ancient connect Ion to the Covenant might prove decisive in the coming storm. Tennyson, she murmured to herself, I hope you've grown wiser since our last meeting. What comes next will require more than your transformations to overcome. The diplomatic reception area had been prepared according to Tetraman custom. Higher gravity settings, appropriate ceremonial lighting, and reinforced furniture designed to accommodate the visitor's greater mass and strength. Ben stood with Max and Rook near the entrance, while Elena waited nearby, her position as a civilian consultant acknowledged but kept separate from the official plumber welcome. Remember protocol, Max reminded them quietly. Princess Looma represents the ruling house of Koros. Whatever personal history exists needs to be secondary to diplomatic considerations. Don't worry, Grandpa, Ben assured him. I can be diplomatic when the situation calls for it. Rook raised an eyebrow skeptically but remained silent. The massive doors slid open, and the Tetraman delegation entered. Looma led the procession, her impressive height and bearing commanding immediate attention. Behind her came 6 royal guards and 3 advisors, all moving with the disciplined precision that characterized Tetraman formal occasions. Princess Looma Red Wind of House Red Wind, heir to the Crimson Throne of Koros, battle commander of the 7th Legion, and royal emissary of the High Council, announced the plumber protocol officer. Looma stopped at the prescribed distance, all 4 eyes focusing on the reception party with analytical intensity. When she spoke, her voice carried the formal cadence of Tetraman royal address. Magistrate Maxwell Tennyson of Earth, guardian of Sector 2814, we bring greetings from Koros and seek audience under the ancient protocols of alliance. Max stepped forward, offering the traditional Tetraman salute, a closed fist pressed against the opposite shoulder. Princess Looma, Earth welcomes you and honors the ancient bonds between our worlds. Please consider Plumber Headquarters your diplomatic home during your stay. The formalities completed, Looma's gaze shifted to Ben. For a moment, the diplomatic mask slipped, revealing a complex mix of emotions, recognition, assessment, and something less easily defined. Ben Tennyson, she said, her tone more personal. It seems you continue to find yourself at the center of significant events. Ben offered a respectful nod, acutely aware that the phoenix patterns on his arm were pulsing more rapidly in Looma's presence. It's good to see you again, Princess. Though I suspect this isn't a social visit. Your perception has improved, Looma observed with the faintest hint of amusement. No, this visit concerns matters of grave importance to both our worlds. Her 4 eyes narrowed slightly. The Phoenix Protocol has awakened, and you have been chosen as its bearer. News travels fast, Ben commented, not entirely surprised. When it concerns technology that could alter the balance of power throughout the galaxy. Indeed. Looma gestured to one of her advisors, who stepped forward carrying an ornate metal case. House Red Wind has maintained knowledge of the Covenant for generations, knowledge that you will need if you hope to complete the convergence successfully. Max motioned toward a more private meeting room adjacent to the reception area. Perhaps we should continue this discussion away from ceremony. Agreed, Looma said, dismissing her guards with a gesture. Only Gorvin and the advisor carrying the case followed as they moved into the conference room. Once seated, Looma in a specially reinforced chair that accommodated her greater size and strength, the formality diminished slightly. The princess leaned forward, studying Ben with renewed intensity. The phoenix patterns are already well established, she noted, gesturing to his arm where the circuitry was visible beneath his rolled sleeve. Have you experienced the memory transfer yet? Ben exchanged glances with Max before answering. Some fragments. Enough to know that the Covenant was preparing Earth for something they called the Hunters, some kind of cyclical threat that destroys evolved worlds. Quote. Looma nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression. Then Mentor's consciousness remains intact within the protocol. Good. She turned to her advisor. The archives, Historian Trava. The Tetraman historian placed the metal case on the table and pressed his palm to its surface. The case responded to his genetic signature, seams appearing in what had seemed solid metal. It opened to reveal an ancient crystal matrix encased in protective fields. This is the Koros Chronicle, Looma explained. A record passed down through 20 generations of House Red Wind, documenting our ancestors' interaction with the Covenant and their knowledge of the cycle. Your people worked with the Covenant? Elena asked, speaking for the first time since the Tetraman's arrival. Looma's upper eyes focused on Elena with sharp interest. You carry nanite technology, she observed. The energy signature is unusual. The nanites have been responding to the Phoenix energy, Elena explained. They're compatible with the Covenant's communication protocols. Fascinating, Historian Trava murmured. The chronicles mention adaptive technologies that would resonate with the Phoenix frequency. Your nanites may be fulfilling that role unexpectedly. Looma returned to Elena's question. To answer you, yes, Tetramans were among the warrior species the COV. A Nant recruited to help implement their protective measures. My ancestors were tasked with defending the Phoenix technology during its dormancy phase, a duty we maintained until contact was lost approximately 15,000 years ago. Ben leaned forward, drawn to the crystal matrix. The Phoenix patterns on his arm brightened in proximity to the device. And this chronicle contains information about the Hunters. It contains our people's observations of 3 previous cycles, Looma confirmed. The Hunters return approximately every 300,000 years. They systematically harvest evolved worlds for a purpose our ancestors never fully understood. She activated the matrix with a precise sequence of touches. A holographic display materialized above the table, Ancient Tetraman. Script interspersed with images that shifted and flowed like liquid memory. The last cycle occurred before humanity had evolved beyond simple tribal structures, Looma continued. The Hunters bypassed Earth as insufficiently developed. But now we've reached the technological threshold that makes us a target, Max finished grimly. Precisely. Looma manipulated the display to show a star chart marking dozens of worlds. These were the worlds harvested during the previous cycle. All had achieved spacefaring capability. All possessed unique genetic or technological innovations. All air systematically stripped of those advancements, their populations culled, their knowledge extracted. The room fell silent as the implications settled. Ben studied the star chart, recognition dawning in his eyes. I've been to some of these systems, he said quietly. Dead worlds orbiting stable stars with evidence of past civilization but no explanation for their collapse. The Hunters leave little evidence of their methods. Looma confirmed. Only patterns recognized across multiple cycles. Rook, who had been analyzing the data with methodical precision, looked up from his tablet. His harvests appear to follow a specific sequence, beginning at the galactic rim and progressing inward along spiral arms. If the pattern holds, Earth would be approximately 67th on their current trajectory, Looma finished. Which gives us perhaps 6 months once the cycle begins. And when does it begin? Max asked. Looma's expression darkened. The preliminary signs are already appearing. Unusual stellar activity in the Andromeda galaxy. Quantum fluctuations consistent with large-scale dimensional transit. Communication disruptions along the predicted approach vector. That's why we haven't been able to reach Azimuth, Ben realized. His location falls within the affected sector. Most likely, Looma agreed. The Hunters disrupt standard communication methods as they approach. Whether by design or as a side effect of their transit technology remains unclear. Elena had moved closer to the holographic display, her scientific curiosity evident. You mentioned the convergence. How does it counter this threat? Looma gestured to Historian Trava, who adjusted the display to show Earth surrounded by a network of energy pathways connecting the Phoenix nodes. The Convergence creates a planetary defense system unlike any conventional technology, the historian explained. Rather than relying on weapons or shields, it fundamentally alters the vibrational frequency of Earth and its inhabitants at a quantum level, making the planet and its life forms incompatible with the hunters' harvesting methods. It changes our fundamental nature. Rook asked, concern evident in his tone. Not in any way you would perceive, Looma assured him. You would remain human, Ravanagander, whatever species you are. But at the subatomic level, your matter would resonate differently, like an instrument tuned to a key the hunters cannot hear or touch. Ben stared at the phoenix patterns on his arm with new understanding. And the Omnitrix is the control mechanism, the conductor for this planetary scale transformation. The Phoenix Protocol requires a bearer capable of understanding multiple species from within, Looma confirmed. Your years of experience transforming G into different life forms make you uniquely qualified to guide the convergence, to ensure the process respects the essential nature of each species while altering their quantum signature. Max leaned back, absorbing the implications. This is far beyond anything we anticipated. The scale of the threat and the response is why I came personally, Looma stated firmly. House Red Wind has maintained our ancestral oath to support the Covenant's work. Koros stands ready to ally with Earth and provide whatever assistance we can to ensure the convergence succeeds. An alliance would significantly strengthen our position. Rook acknowledged. Tetraman military technology would be valuable in protecting the remaining Phoenix nodes. And finding the 6 we haven't located yet, Ben added, looking to Looma. Your chronicles might help narrow down their positions. Looma nodded. They contain approximate coordinates based on the planetary energy grid as it existed 40,000 years ago. Geological shifts would have altered some locations, but the data should provide a starting point. Then it seems we have the foundation for a formal alliance, Max said, years of diplomatic experience evident in his measured response. I'll need to consult with Earth's governments, of course, but given the circumstances, I believe they'll recognize the necessity. Tetraman alliances traditionally require more than political agreements, Gorvin interjected, speaking for the first time. Our people value bonds forged through shared challenge and demonstrated commitment. Ben smiled faintly. Let me guess, some kind of trial or test to prove Earth's worthiness as an ally. You do remember our ways, Looma said, approval evident in her tone. Yes, the High Council has authorized me to offer alliance. But only after Earth demonstrates its commitment through trial of valor. What does this trial entail? Max asked carefully. A joint mission, Looma explained. Tetraman and D-Earth representatives working together to recover one of the missing Phoenix nodes. Success would cement our alliance and secure a critical component of the convergence network. I assume you have a specific node in mind? Ben asked. Looma's 4 eyes gleamed with the light of challenge. Indeed. Our historians believe one of the most important nodes was hidden beneath what is now your Arctic Ocean, in territory that has been disputed between your governments for centuries. Recovering it will require not only technical expertise but diplomatic finesse to avoid triggering Earth's internal political conflicts. Max and Ben exchanged looks. The Arctic had indeed become a flashpoint in recent years as melting ice revealed resources and opened new shipping routes. Multiple nations maintain research stations that doubled as military outposts, all watching each other with suspicious eyes. A delicate operation, Max acknowledged, but potentially worth the diplomatic complications if it secures both the node and an alliance with Koros. I volunteer to lead Earth's team, Ben said immediately. I assumed you would, Looma replied with a knowing smile. The Phoenix Bearer's participation is essential, as the node will respond to your presence. I will represent Koros, along with a small contingent of specialists. I'll participate as well, Rook stated, his tone making it clear this wasn't a request. My experience with both plumber protocols and Arctic conditions will be valuable. And I should join too, Elena added. If the node requires technical interface similar to the Siberian facility, my nanites could provide critical access capabilities. Looma considered them thoughtfully, her 4 eyes assessing each in turn. A small, specialized team with complementary abilities. Acceptable. We will depart in 12 hours, enough time to finalize the diplomatic formalities and prepare equipment suitable for Arctic conditions. As the meeting concluded and arrangements began, Ben found himself momentarily alone with Looma while the others conferred about technical details. The Tetraman princess studied him with an expression that mixed professional assessment with personal curiosity. "You've changed, Tennyson," she observed. "And not just because of the Phoenix Protocol. There's a maturity to you that was absent during our previous encounters." Ben smiled ruefully. "Getting your heart broken a few times, saving the universe repeatedly, and generally growing up tends to have that effect." Indeed. Luma's lower right hand moved unconsciously the ceremonial blade at her hip, a gesture Ben recognized as a Tetraman signal of respect. "I find myself curious to discover what kind of ally you will be, now that you are no longer the boy who accidentally claimed my hand in combat." "Hopefully a better ally than I would have been a husband," Ben replied with surprising diplomacy. Looma laughed, the sound rich and genuine. "On that, we are in complete agreement." Her expression sobered. "But know this, Ben Tennyson, while I come as an ally, I also come as a warrior who has sworn to protect my people. If the convergence represents their best hope of survival against the hunters, I will do whatever is necessary to ensure its completion. Even if that places us at odds." Ben met her gaze steadily. "I understand. I've made similar promises to protect Earth." "Then we begin from a position of mutual understanding," Looma concluded with satisfaction. "Which is more than many alliances can claim." As she turned to rejoin her advisors, Ben felt the phoenix patterns warm against his skin, pulsing with an energy that seemed to respond to Looma's presence. Something in the Tetraman princess's genetic heritage resonated with the coven. And technology, a connection forged in ancient times and now reawakening alongside the protocol itself. The hunters were coming, but perhaps, this time, their prey would be ready. The Arctic Research Station designated Polaris, perched on the edge of the permanent ice sheet, its modular structures built to withstand the harshest conditions Earth could produce. Officially registered as an international scientific facility, it served as the perfect neutral ground for the joint mission to locate the hidden Phoenix node. Ben stood on the observation platform, breath fogging in the bitter cold despite his thermal gear. The Phoenix patterns provided unexpected warmth where they traced his arm, a localized shield against the frigid temperature. In the distance, the aurora borealis danced across the night sky, sheets of green and blue light that seemed to respond to his presence, intensifying when he focused on them. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Elena's voice came from behind as she joined him on the platform. Unlike Ben, she relied on her nanite-enhanced suit to protect against the cold, the microscopic machines forming a perfect insulating layer beneath her Arctic gear. "It's responding to the Phoenix energy," Ben replied, not taking his eyes from the celestial display. "The nodes affect Earth's electromagnetic field, subtle changes that most people would never notice." Elena leaned against the railing beside him. "Your connection to the protocol keeps getting stronger. Are you still receiving Mentor's memories?" Ben nodded. "Fragments, mostly. Technical details about the convergence mechanism. Glimpses of Covenant history." He hesitated before continuing. "And warnings. Mentor was afraid of something beyond just the hunters, some consequence of the convergence he couldn't fully predict." "That's concerning," Elena said quietly. "The Covenant doesn't seem like the type to implement a planetary-scale technology without thoroughly understanding the outcomes." "I think that's exactly why Mentor uploaded his consciousness," Ben suggested. "To be present for the actual implementation, to make adjustments that couldn't be calculated 40,000 years in advance." The aurora pulsed more intensely. A ripple of amber now visible among the traditional colors. Elena's nanites responded, briefly forming patterns across her skin that matched the lights above. "We're getting close," she murmured. "The node is active, reaching out." "I feel it too," Ben confirmed. "Tomorrow's expedition should take us right to it, assuming the political situation doesn't complicate things." The reference to politics wasn't casual. Their arrival at Polaris had coincided with increased military activity in the region. Russian, American, Canadian, and Norwegian research vessels had adjusted their positions in the past 12 hours, maintaining a careful distance while clearly monitoring the situation. "Magistrate Tennyson's diplomatic work is keeping them at bay for now," Elena noted. "But finding a node in disputed international waters is going to raise questions we can't easily answer." "Which is exactly why Looma chose this trial," Ben said with grudging respect. "She testing not just our capabilities but our commitment, forcing Earth's governments to prioritize the convergence over their territorial disputes. The door to the platform slid open again, admitting Rook. The Ravanagonder's fur provided natural insulation against cold, though he still wore appropriate Arctic gear adapted for his physiology. Final preparations are complete, he reported. Ma's team has integrated their equipment with ours. We depart at 0600. How's she handling the cold? Ben asked, knowing Tetramans evolved in a much warmer environment. Better than expected, Rook replied. Tetraman military training apparently includes adaptation to extreme environments. Though I notice she stays remarkably close to the heating units when not actively working. Ben smiled at the image. Some things transcend species differences. Rook's expression grew more serious. Ben, I have been analyzing the energy patterns the station's sensors are detecting. There are anomalies that concern me. What kind of anomalies? Elena asked, professional interest piqued. Temporal distortions, Rook explained, showing them readings on his tablet. Microscopic fluctuations in the local timestream, centered on the approximate coordinates of the node. Ben frowned, the Phoenix patterns brightening in response to his concern. Time manipulation isn't mentioned in any of the Covenant records we've reviewed. Nor in the Tetraman Chronicles, Rook confirmed. Yet the evidence suggests this particular node may have temporal functionality beyond the standard convergence protocols. That could explain why it was placed in such a remote location, Elena theorized. Time manipulation technology would be considered dangerous even by the Covenant's standards. Ben stared out at the aurora, which now pulsed in patterns that seemed almost like communication, regular sequences of light that repeated with subtle variations. The Phoenix patterns on his arm responded in kind, their amber glow visible even through his sleeve. It's calling to me, he said quietly. Not just guiding us to its location, but asking for something. Ben, Rook's concern was evident. I need to try something. Before they could question him further, Ben activated the Omnitrix, selecting an alien form rarely used. The emerald amber light of transformation enveloped him, and when it faded, Clockwork stood in his place, the Chronosapian form now enhanced with Phoenix patterns that flowed across his mechanical body like liquid metal. The key-like protrusion on Clockwork's head began to rotate, emitting a soft whirring sound. Green energy suffused with amber streaks projected forward, creating a viewing portal that showed not a different location, but a different time, the same CTIC landscape thousands of years earlier, before the ice had fully formed. Through the portal, they could see Covenant workers constructing a facility around a central device that pulsed with familiar Phoenix energy. Supervising them was a Tetraman who bore markings similar to Looma's royal insignia. An ancestor of House Red Wind, Rook breathed in amazement. This confirms their historical claims. The time window shifted forward, showing the completed facility being sealed as ice began to form around it. A final security protocol activated, a temporal stasis field that separated the node from normal time flow, preserving it perfectly until it would be needed. That's why we couldn't locate it with standard sensors, Elena realized. It exists slightly out of phase with our timestream. The Phoenix protocol is bringing it back into alignment as the convergence approaches. The viewing portal collapsed as Ben reverted to human form, looking slightly dazed from the experience. That was more intense than usual. The Phoenix enhancement amplifies Clockwork's temporal abilities significantly. Did you see anything that might help us locate the node more precisely? Rook asked. Ben nodded, moving to the station's mapping terminal and bringing up bathymetric charts of the seabed. With surprising precision, he marked a location approximately 30 kilometers north of their position, a deep trench that satellite imaging had never properly mapped. There, the temporal stasis field created a gravitational anomaly that altered the ocean floor over millennia. The trench isn't natural, it's a side effect of the node's presence. Elena studied the coordinates. That's in international waters, but only barely. 3 different nations claim research rights to that quadrant. Which means we'll likely have company tomorrow, Rook noted grimly. The increased activity we've observed suggests multiple governments are tracking our movements. Let them come, said a new voice as Looma entered the platform. Despite the cold, she wore only light insulating gear over her battle armor. The trial of valor never specified we would work unopposed. Ben turned to her with newfound respect. You knew this node was temporally active. That's why you chose it for the trial. It's not just politically complicated but technically challenging. A proper test of an alliance must examine all facets of compatibility. Looma confirmed unapologetically. Tetramans do not ally with those who falter at the first sign of difficulty. We won't falter, Ben assured her, the Foan. Ix patterns briefly flaring beneath his sleeve. But full disclosure would have helped with our preparation. Looma's 4 eyes assessed him thoughtfully. Would it, or would it have led to endless debate and caution? Sometimes action reveals more than discussion. A very Tetraman philosophy, Rook observed diplomatically. Indeed. Looma moved to the mapping terminal, studying Ben's marked location. Your temporal vision confirms our historical records. House Red Wind's chronicles mention a vault of moments placed beneath the northern ice, a node designed to stabilize temporal fluctuations during the convergence process. Time manipulation on a planetary scale, Elena murmured. The implications are staggering. And dangerous, Ben added, recalling fragments of Mentor's memories. The Covenant was divided on whether to include temporal elements in the convergence. Some believed it necessary to counter the Hunter's own time manipulation abilities. This new information drew sharp looks from the others. The Hunters can manipulate time? Rook asked with evident alarm. According to Mentor's memories, yes, though in limited ways, Ben explained. They use temporal dilation to isolate target worlds during harvest, preventing external interference. The temporal node is designed to counter that capability. Looma nodded with satisfaction, which makes recovering it P.S. the most crucial element of the convergence preparation. Without temporal stabilization, the Hunters could simply place Earth in a bubble of accelerated time and complete their harvest before any resistance could be mounted. The tactical implications settled heavily on the group. What had already seemed a daunting threat now appeared even more formidable. We should inform Magistrate Tennyson, Rook suggested. This development significantly alters our strategic position. Agreed, Ben said, already moving toward the communication station. But it doesn't change tomorrow's mission. If anything, it makes it more urgent. As the others followed, Looma lingered a moment, watching Ben with analytical intensity. The Phoenix Bearer was proving more adaptable than she had anticipated, integrating new information and adjusting strategies with a fluidity that impressed even her Tetraman sensibilities. Perhaps this alliance had greater potential than the High Council had believed. The Aurora pulsed overhead, now clearly responding to the Phoenix energy emanating from both Ben and the hidden node. The convergence was approaching its critical phase. The time for testing was nearly over. Soon would come the time for war. The expedition vehicles moved across the ice sheet in tight formation, 2 plumber snow crawlers flanking the larger Tetraman transport. Designed for Arctic conditions, the vehicles could travel over ice, snow, or open water with equal facility, their environmental systems maintaining comfortable conditions despite the brutal cold outside. Ben sat in the lead snowcrawler's navigation section, consulting holographic displays of their approach vector. The Phoenix patterns on his arm pulsed steadily, growing brighter as they neared the node's location. G readings are increasing exponentially, Elena reported from the sensor station. The temporal distortion field is becoming more pronounced. I can feel it, Ben confirmed, a slight discomfort evident in his expression. The node is trying to synchronize with the Phoenix Omnitrix, but the time differential is creating resistance. Rook, who piloted their vehicle with characteristic precision, glanced at the readings. We are approximately 10 minutes from the coordinates. Sonar confirms the ice thins considerably near the target location, likely another effect of the temporal distortion. In the communication section, Max's holographic image appeared, his expression concerned. Ben, we're tracking multiple vessels converging on your position. Russian and Canadian research ships from the east, and what appears to be a disguised Forever Night vessel approaching from the north. Knights again, Ben frowned. They're being unusually persistent about the Phoenix technology. And unusually well-informed, Rook added. Their previous attack demonstrated specific knowledge of the node's functions. Whatever their source of information, they're accelerating toward your position, Max continued. ETA approximately 20 minutes. The governmental vessels are maintaining a more cautious approach, probably waiting to see how the situation develops. That gives us a narrow window, Ben concluded. We need to reach the node before the Knights, and preferably before we have diplomatic complications with Earth governments. The comm channel expanded to include Looma, who commanded the Tetraman transport. We should deploy advanced teams to establish a security perimeter while the technical specialists focus on node access. Agreed, Ben said. Rook can coordinate security with your warriors. Elena and I will focus on interfacing with the node once we locate the exact access point. The ice is thinning rapidly, Elena noted as their vehicles moved onto what appeared to be a frozen lake. Sensors indicate we're directly above the trench now. Ben felt a sudden surge of energy from the Phoenix patterns, accompanied by a brief vision, a flash of the facility as it had existed before the ice. With a specific entry sequence highlighted in his mind's eye. Stop here, he ordered. This is it. The access point is directly beneath us. The vehicles formed a defensive circle on the ice. Looma's transport deployed 4 Tetraman warriors equipped with cold-weather battle armor, while Rook organized the plumber security team to establish a perimeter. Specialized equipment was unloaded, including drilling apparatus and containment fields. Ben stood at the center of the formation, the Phoenix patterns now glowing visibly through his Arctic gear. The ice beneath his feet had taken on an unusual translucence, amber light filtering up from deep below. The node is becoming more active, he observed. It senses the Phoenix Omnitrix. Elena joined him, her nanite-enhanced scanner mapping the ice structure. There appears to be a vertical shaft directly beneath us, extending approximately 200 meters to the facility entrance. The ice is already weakening along a specific pattern, almost like it's creating an access route for us. The temporal stasis field is receding, Ben confirmed. The node is returning to normal time flow as the convergence approaches. Looma approached, her heavy footsteps crunching on the increasingly fragile ice. My warriors are in position, but our sensors detect approaching aircraft in addition to the vessels your grandfather mentioned. Earth governments appear unwilling to remain mere observers. Can't blame them, Ben acknowledged. If mysterious alien technology activated in Tetraman territory, you'd investigate too. With considerably less restraint, Looma admitted with a slight smile. We should proceed quickly. How do you propose to access the facility? In answer, Ben activated the Omnitrix, selecting a form appropriate for their needs. The emerald amber light of transformation enveloped him, and NRG emerged, the normally bulky radiation alien now streamlined by Phoenix enhancements. E-containment suit bore intricate patterns that pulsed with energy, and the grating over the face glowed with intensified radiation. I'll create a controlled melt path, NRG explained, his accented voice deeper and more resonant through the Phoenix enhancement. The radiation can be precisely modulated to affect only the ice directly above the facility entrance without compromising the surrounding structure. My nanites can reinforce the tunnel walls as we descend, Elena added, demonstrating as metallic particles flowed from her hands to create structural supports. Looma nodded approvingly. Efficient. My warriors will maintain surface security with Rook while I accompany you below. Tetraman's strength may be needed if the facility's physical barriers remain active. NRG extended his hands, and focused radiation beams emerged. Not the usual uncontrolled emissions, but precisely calibrated energy that melted the ice in a perfect circle 3 meters in diameter. The frozen water transformed to steam rather than liquid, venting harmlessly upward as the shaft took shape. Remarkable control, Looma observed. The Phoenix enhancements have significantly refined your abilities. It's like having perfect feedback. NRG explained as they began their descent, Elena's nanites forming a spiral staircase beneath them. I can feel exactly how the energy interacts with different materials, adjusting output in real time. The shaft extended downward, the ice gradually giving way to ancient construction materials. The walls of the facility became visible, a metallic alloy inscribed with covenant symbols that glowed with amber light as they passed. The facility recognizes the Phoenix energy, Elena noted, her nanites spreading across the walls to interface with the ancient systems. It's powering up critical systems, preparing for access. After descending nearly 200 meters, they reached what appeared to be the main entrance, a massive circular door emblazoned with the Phoenix symbol. NRG approached, the radiation from his enhanced form interacting with the door's surface in visible patterns. It requires authentication, he stated, placing his hand against a central panel. The phoenix patterns flowed from his transformed body into the door mechanism, creating a connection between bearer and facility. The door responded, ancient machinery humming to life. As seals disengaged for the first time in 40 millennia. With a sound like a massive clock being wound, it began to rotate, revealing the chamber beyond. NRG reverted to human form, the phoenix pat. Turns on Ben's arm now pulsing in perfect synchronization with lights emanating from the facility. It recognizes me as the protocol bearer, he explained, stepping through the doorway. The security systems are accepting my presence as authorized. Elena and Looma followed him into a vast circular chamber dominated by a central column of light. Within this column floated what appeared to be a CR. Eastaline device shaped like an hourglass, the temporal node, preserved in perfect condition by the stasis field that had protected it for thousands of years. Beautiful, Elena whispered, her scientific appreciation evident. The engineering principles are centuries beyond current understanding. Looma circled the chamber with professional assessment, noting defensive positions and structural elements. The Covenant built to last. This facility could withstand significant bombardment if needed. Ben approached the central column, drawn by a connection that transcended physical senses. The phoenix patterns guided his movements, showing him where to place his hands on the control interfaces that surrounded the node. The temporal stabilization matrix is still functional, he reported as. Information flowed into his mind through the phoenix connection. But it needs to be properly calibrated to the current planetary frequency before it can be integrated into the convergence network. Can you perform the calibration? Looma asked. Ben nodded slowly. The Phoenix protocol is providing the necessary parameters. It will take approximately 20 minutes to complete the process safely. Elena's communicator chimed with an urgent signal. Ben, Rook reports multiple aircraft approaching our position. The Forever Knights have deployed what appear to be drop ships, and they'll reach us before the governmental forces. They're really determined to interfere with the convergence, Ben noted grimly. Looma, can your warriors hold the surface position long enough for me to complete the calibration? Looma's 4 eyes narrowed with battle readiness. Tetraman warriors can hold against superior numbers when necessary. But I should join them, my command experience would be valuable in coordinating the defense. Agreed. Ben said. Elena, your nanites can interface with the facility's systems. I need you to help me complete the calibration while they secure our exit. As Looma departed up the nanite staircase, Elena moved to the control interfaces opposite Ben, her nanites flowing into the ancient technology to create a compatible connection. The system architecture is fascinating, she commented as data flowed through her nanite network. It's designed to be adaptable across evolutionary timeframes, capable of recognizing and interfacing with technologies that didn't exist when it was created. The Covenant was thinking long-term in ways most species can't comprehend, Ben agreed, his hands moving across the controls with practiced certainty despite never having seen them before. They designed for adaptation rather than preservation. The calibration process continued, the temporal node gradually synchronizing with Earth's current resonant frequency. As they worked, the phoenix patterns on Ben's arm grew brighter, occasionally extending further up his arm as though the integration was expanding. Ben, Elena said carefully, noting the change, the phoenix patterns are spreading. He nodded without pausing his work. It's responding to the connection with the node. The Omnitrix is being recognized as the central control system for the entire convergence network. Is that safe? She asked, scientific concern evident. The integration seems to be accelerating beyond what we anticipated. Safe is relative when you're dealing with 40,000-year-old alien technology designed to reshape planetary quantum frequencies, Ben replied with a hint of his old humor. But Mentor's consciousness is guiding the process. He anticipated this phase. Above them, the sounds of combat became audible, energy weapons discharging and the distinctive impacts of Tetraman battle hammers against metal. The Forever Knights had arrived, and the defense team was engaged. We need to hurry, Elena urged, her nanites working faster to process the calibration sequences. Ben nodded, his expression focused as the phoenix patterns pulsed more rapidly. Almost there, the temporal matrix is accepting the new parameters. His communicator activated, Rook's voice coming through with background sounds of battle. Ben, the Knights have deployed some kind of energy dampening technology. Our weapons are losing effectiveness, and they're attempting to breach the access shaft. How many? Ben asked, continuing the calibration. At least 30 knights with advanced armor and weapons. Rook replied. Looma and her warriors are holding the immediate perimeter, but they're employing tactics specifically designed to counter Tetraman combat styles. They've studied our capabilities thoroughly. Stall them as long as you can, Ben instructed. We're nearly finished here. As if responding to the urgency, the temporal node pulsed more brightly. The hourglass shape rotating within its energy column. Streams of data flowed across the control interfaces more rapidly, the calibration accelerating toward completion. 90% synchronized, Elena reported. The node is accepting the updated parameters. The facility shuddered suddenly, dust falling from the ancient ceiling. They've breached the upper levels, Ben realized. We're out of time. He made a quick decision. Activating the Omnitrix while maintaining contact with the control interface. I need to split our efforts. Elena, can you complete the final calibration sequence? She nodded, her nanites already spreading to cover the controls he had been operating. My nanites can maintain the protocol. Go help the others. The emerald amber light of transformation enveloped Ben. And Fast Track emerged. The Citricaya speedster form now enhanced with phoenix patterns that streamlined his body further and created energy pathways across his muscular structure. Without waiting for confirmation, he shot up the nanite staircase at extraordinary speed, becoming a blur of motion that left a trail of amber light in his wake. Elena returned her focus to the calibration. Our nanites now covering the entire control interface as they processed the final adjustments. The temporal node responded, its rotation accelerating as it approached full synchronization with Earth's current timestream. Just a little longer, she murmured to herself, sensing the ancient technology's awakening consciousness, not sentient like the Phoenix Protocol, but aware in its own mechanical way. Recognizing its purpose after 40 millennia of waiting, Fast Track erupted from the access shaft into chaos. The ice field had become a battlefield, with Looma and her warriors engaged in close combat against Forever Knights using advanced armor that seemed specifically designed to counter Tetraman's strength. Rook and the plumber team maintained a defensive perimeter around the shaft, their weapons operating at reduced capacity due to the Knight's dampening technology. Ben, Rook called, his proto-tool configured as a power staff since its energy functions were compromised. They're using targeted countermeasures against each species present. Then let's give them something they haven't countered. Fast Track replied, his enhanced speed allowing him to assess the entire battlefield in moments. The Phoenix patterns provided tactical insights beyond his usual capabilities, identifying weaknesses in the Knight's formation and technology. With precision born of this enhanced awareness, Fast Track moved through the battlefield, not attacking directly, but disrupting the Knight's coordination, separating units from each other, creating opportunities for Looma and Rook to exploit. Looma fought with the disciplined fury of a Tetraman commander, her warhammer creating shockwaves across the ice as she confronted 3 knights simultaneously. Despite their specialized armor, the Y struggled to contain her 4-armed combat style, particularly when Fast Track's interventions disrupted their coordinated attacks. Their armor is adaptive, Looma called to him as they briefly fought back to back. It's analyzing attack patterns and adjusting defenses accordingly. Then we change patterns faster than they can adapt, Fast Track suggested, touching the Omnitrix symbol on his chest. The emerald amber light flashed, and Diamond Head replaced Fast Track, but with a fluidity to the transformation that suggested growing mastery of the Phoenix enhancements. The crystalline form bore intricate patterns that flowed like liquid light across its surface, the usual green colorations now infused with amber highlights. Let's see them adapt to this, Diamond Head said, plunging his hands into the ice beneath them. Crystal structures erupted across the battlefield in a carefully orchestrated pattern, not directly attacking the knights but altering the terrain to separate our formations and disrupt their tactical positioning. The crystals conducted the Phoenix energy, creating localized interference with the knights' dampening technology. Their field is weakening, Rook called, his proto-tool suddenly regaining full functionality. He immediately switched to energy mode, targeting the Knight's power sources with surgical precision. The battle shifted in their favor, but the Knight commander, distinguishable by his more elaborate armor, responded with unexpected tactics. Rather than continuing the surface engagement, he directed a specialized team toward the access shaft. Their equipment clearly designed for extraction rather than combat. They're going for the node. Diamond Head realized, creating a crystal barrier to block their path. The knights deployed what appeared to be phase shift technology, allowing them to pass through solid matter momentarily. 3 knights penetrated the crystal barrier and disappeared down the shaft toward Elena and the temporal node. Looma, can you hold the surface? Diamond Head called, already moving toward the shaft. Go. The Tetraman commander confirmed, rallying her warriors into a tighter formation. We will ensure your exit remains secure. Diamond Head plunged back down the shaft, crystal projections accelerating his descent faster than the knight's controlled fall. He overtook them halfway down, intercepting their trajectory with a precisely formed crystal platform that disrupted their phase-shifting equipment. The knights recovered quickly, deploying specialized weapons designed to shatter crystalline structures. Energy beams struck Diamond Head's form, searching for resonant frequencies that would fracture his composition. The Phoenix enhancements responded automatically, the flowing pattern reorganizing his crystalline structure to resist the attacks. Rather than maintaining a single density, Diamond Head's form now contained variable crystalline layers that absorbed and redirected energy. Nice try, he said, forming his arms into bladed weapons. But the Phoenix knows your tricks. The confined space of the shaft limited the knights' mobility, forcing them to engage directly despite Diamond Head's clear advantage. Their armor provided some protection against his attacks, but the Phoenix enhanced strength behind each blow gradually overwhelmed their defenses. 2 knights were incapacitated quickly, their systems overloaded by precisely targeted crystal projectiles. The third, clearly a higher-ranking operative, deployed a final desperate measure, a temporal disruption grenade. Designed to create localized stasis fields. For the purity of Earth. The knight declared, activating the device and hurling it past Diamond Head toward the chamber below. Diamond Head reacted with Phoenix-enhanced reflexes, converting his entire form into a crystalline barrier that contained the grenade's detonation. The temporal energy washed over him, temporarily freezing portions of his body in conflicting time streams. The sensation was disorienting, parts of him experiencing time normally while others were accelerated or slowed. The Phoenix patterns flared brightly, struggling to harmonize the disrupted temporal flow. With concentrated effort, Diamond Head pushed through the disorientation, forcing his consciousness to remain unified despite the fragmented temporal experience. The Omnitrix symbol pulsed with emerald amber light, and gradually his form stabilized, the Phoenix patterns re-establishing normal time flow throughout his body. The remaining knight, seeing his weapon ineffective, attempted to retreat up the shaft. Diamond Head extended a crystalline tendril that wrapped around the knight's ankle, preventing his escape. Who's providing you with information about the Phoenix technology? Diamond Head demanded, pulling the knight closer. How do you know about temporal countermeasures? The knight struggled against the crystal restraint. The Forever Knights serve Earth's true destiny. We will not allow alien influence to corrupt our planet's natural evolution. By using alien technology yourselves. Bit hypocritical, don't you think? Before the knight could respond, a tremor ran through the facility, stronger than the previous disturbances. Diamond Head secured his prisoner with crystal restraints and continued downward, concerned for Elena and the node. He reached the chamber to find Elena surrounded by her nanites, which had formed a protective sphere around both her and the temporal node. The facility's lighting had intensified, and the walls themselves seemed to pulse with amber energy. Elena, are you all right? Diamond Head called, approaching the nanite sphere. The sphere partially opened, revealing Elena within. Her expression was one of amazed wonder rather than fear, her eyes reflecting the amber light that filled the chamber. It's done, she said, her voice carrying unusual harmonics. The temporal node is fully calibrated and integrated with the convergence network. Quote, the node itself had changed, the hourglass shape now rotating steadily within its energy column, occasionally emitting pulses that rippled outward like temporal waves. Each pulse momentarily altered perception, objects appearing to slow or accelerate before returning to normal flow. The temporal stabilization field is establishing itself, Elena explained, her nanites gradually withdrawing into her body. It's creating a protective layer that will prevent the hunters from isolating Earth in an accelerated timestream during harvest. Diamond Head reverted to human form. The Phoenix patterns on Ben's arm now extending further, reaching his shoulder and beginning to spread across his chest in intricate circuitry-like designs. You did it, he said with genuine admiration. The calibration was successful. Elena nodded, though her expression became concerned as she noticed the expanded patterns. Ben, the Phoenix integration is progressing faster than projected. The patterns shouldn't be spreading at this rate. Ben glanced down at his arm, where the amber designs now pulsed with greater intensity. It's responding to the node activation. ACH component of the convergence network we bring online strengthens the protocol's connection to the Omnitrix. Is it painful? She asked, scientific concern mixing with personal care. No, Ben assured her, though his expression suggested he wasn't telling the complete truth. It's more overwhelming. Mentor's memories are becoming more accessible, filling in gaps in my understanding of the convergence. The facility trembled again, more violently this time. The temporal stabilization is affecting local gravitational fields, Elena explained, checking readings on her nanite-formed scanner. We should evacuate before the ice structure above becomes too unstable. Ben nodded, activating his communicator. Rook, Looma, status report. The Knights are retreating, Rook reported. But we have new complications. Russian and Canadian research vessels have deployed aircraft, and they're demanding explanations for the energy readings they're detecting. Tell them to back off, Ben replied grimly. The temporal field could have unpredictable effects on unshielded technology. We need a 2-kilometer exclusion zone until stabilization completes. I will convey your warning, Rook acknowledged. But diplomatic tensions are escalating rapidly. Multiple governments are claiming jurisdiction over the discovery. Let Grandpa handle the politics, Ben said. Our priority is Saku. Ring the node and getting our team to safety. We're coming up. Ben selected another transformation, and the emerald amber light enveloped him. Big Chill emerged, the necrophrygian form now featuring intricate frost patterns across its wings and a controlled aura of cold that didn't affect Elena despite standing nearby. This should help stabilize the shaft during our ascent, Big Chill explained, his whispery voice carrying unusual harmonic depths. The ice is becoming increasingly unstable as the temporal field establishes. Elena nodded, her nanites forming a protective layer around her body as they began their ascent. The captive knight remained secured in crystal restraints, unable to interfere but watching their activities with calculating attention. As they ascended, Big Chill periodically reinforced the shaft walls with precisely controlled ice formations that counteracted the gravitational fluctuations caused by the temporal field. The Phoenix enhancements allowed for unprecedented control over his freezing abilities, creating structures that adapted in real time to changing conditions. They reached the surface to find the battlefield transformed. The Forever Knights had indeed retreated, their damaged equipment littering the ice. Looma and her warriors maintained a defensive perimeter around the shaft entrance, while Rook coordinated with the plumber team to monitor approaching aircraft. The node is secured, Big Chill announced as they emerged. Temporal stabilization is in progress and should complete within approximately 3 hours. Looma approached, battle damage evident on her armor though she showed no signs of fatigue. The Knights fought with unusual determination. Their commitment suggests they understand the significance of the convergence. Far better than should be possible for a human organization. Agreed, Rook said, joining them with his proto-tool still at ready. Their tactics demonstrated specific counters to both Plumber and Tetraman capabilities. They were well prepared for this confrontation. Big Chill reverted to human form, the expanded Phoenix patterns now visible at the collar of Ben's Arctic gear. We need to question our prisoner thoroughly. The Knight's knowledge of the Covenant technology suggests they have access to information that should be restricted. Their commander escaped with most of their forces, Looma reported with evident frustration. But we captured 4 Knights in addition to the one you apprehended below. Elena studied the gravitational readings on her scanner with growing concern. The temporal stabilization is creating more distortion than anticipated. We should evacuate to a safe distance and establish remote monitoring. As if confirming her assessment, the ice beneath them shifted suddenly. Cracks spreading outward from the shaft entrance. The temporal field's effects were intensifying, creating visible distortions in the air above the access point, shimmering waves at occasionally revealed glimpses of the same location at different points in time. Back to the vehicles, Ben ordered. Secure the prisoners and prepare for immediate departure. As they retreated toward their transport, Ben paused, his attention drawn to the temporal distortions above the shaft. Through the fluctuating time streams, he caught glimpses of something moving, shadows that seemed to flow between the temporal rifts. Observing the present from multiple points in time simultaneously, the phoenix patterns flared in response to his focus, and for a brief moment, Ben perceived what the patterns recognized: hunters. Not physically present, but watching through time itself, their attention drawn by the node's activation. The glimpse lasted only seconds before the temporal field stabilized, sealing the rifts and establishing the protective layer that would prevent such observations in the future. But the impression remained, burning in Ben's consciousness with terrible clarity. They were coming, and they knew Earth was preparing to resist. The joint mission debriefing took place aboard Looma's royal yacht in orbit above Earth, neutral territory that allowed for frank discussion away from the political complications that had erupted following the Arctic operation. Representatives from 6 Earth governments demanded explanations for the energy phenomena detected in international waters, while the plumbers worked to establish a scientific exclusion zone around the temporal node. Ben sat at the conference table with Looma, Rook, Elena, and Max present via a secure holographic link, reviewing the mission outcomes and their implications. The temporal node is fully operational, Elena reported, displaying nanite-collected data on the main screen. The stabilization field has established itself in a 20-kilometer radius around the facility and is gradually extending to create a planetary layer that will prevent temporal manipulation on a global scale. And the political situation? Ben asked, turning to Max's hologram. Manageable, but tense, the magistrate replied. We're using the cover story of a previously unknown alien artifact activating automatically after millennia of dormancy. Technically true, just not the complete picture. Earth governments are predictably focused on potential military applications, Looma observed. They perceive THE technology as a weapon to be controlled rather than a shield to be maintained. Which is precisely why we're keeping the full scope of the convergence classified, Max confirmed. Only a handful of officials have been briefed on the hunters and the true purpose of the Phoenix Protocol. Ben leaned forward, the expanded Phoenix patterns visible across his chest through his partially opened uniform. What about the Knights? Have the prisoners revealed anything useful? Limited information, Rook reported. They maintain they are protecting Earth from alien influence, but their technical knowledge of the Covenant technology suggests access to historical records beyond anything publicly available. They're working with someone who has inside information, Ben concluded. Someone IAR with both the Covenant's work and our current operations. I've ordered a security review of all personnel with access to Phoenix Protocol data, Max assured them. If there's a leak, we'll find it. Looma had been studying Ben throughout the discussion, her 4 eyes noting the expanded Phoenix patterns with professional interest. The integration accelerates with each node activation, she observed. The protocol is preparing its bearer for the final phase of convergence. Ben nodded, unconsciously tracing the patterns with his fingertips. Mentor's consciousness is becoming more present. The memories are more coherent now, though still focused primarily on technical aspects of the convergence. And have these memories revealed more about the hunters? Looma asked directly. Some, Ben admitted. They're not a single species but a collective, multiple forms united by a shared purpose. They harvest evolved worlds to extract specific genetic and technological innovations, incorporating them into their own collective. For what ultimate purpose? Rook asked the question everyone was considering. Survival, Ben replied simply. According to Mentor's memories, the Hunters originated in a dying universe, one reaching heat death long before ours. They discovered a way to transfer themselves to our reality, but the transition was incomplete. They require constant harvesting of evolved life to maintain their existence in our universe. The implications settled heavily on the group. This wasn't merely an invasion or conquest, it was a fundamental struggle for existence. Between refugees from a dying reality and the life of this universe they harvested to survive. How does the Covenant expect us to resist such a force? Looma asked pragmatically. If they've been successfully harvesting worlds for millions of years across multiple galaxies, what chance does Earth have, even with the convergence? That's where the Phoenix Protocol differs from conventional defenses, Elena explained. Her scientific understanding of the technology growing with each node activation. It doesn't attempt to fight the hunters directly, it makes Earth and its inhabitants incompatible. able with their harvesting methods by shifting our quantum resonance. Like changing our fundamental frequency, Ben added. The hunters can only harvest life that resonates within specific parameters. The convergence moves Earth's biosphere outside those parameters, making us essentially invisible to their harvesting technology. Elegant, Rook acknowledged. Rather than confrontation, the Covenant designed for evasion. Not their first choice, Ben said, fragments of Mentor's memories surfacing. They attempted direct resistance in previous cycles. Hundreds of worlds fought together, deploying weapons of unimaginable power. All were ultimately harvested, so they created a way to hide an entire planet in plain sight, Max concluded. And chose Earth as their test case. Earth has unique properties that made it ideal. Ben explained. Exceptional biodiversity, unusual geological stability, and a specific position in spacetime that allows for the convergence field to establish properly. Looma studied the tactical implications with a commander's eye. This explains why the trial of valor focused on recovering the temporal node. Without it, the frequency shift could be detected and countered by the hunters' own temporal technology. Precisely, Ben confirmed. The temporal node creates a protective layer that prevents outside manipulation of Earth's timestream during the convergence process. It's essential to the overall protection strategy. Which means we've successfully completed the trial, Looma stated, satisfaction evident in her tone. Tetraman and H forces cooperated effectively to recover critical technology against active opposition. The requirements for formal alliance have been met. The High Council is satisfied. Max asked. More than satisfied, Looma replied. Impressed. Few potential allies demonstrate such effectiveness in their first joint operation. She turned to Ben. The High Council has authorized me to formalize the alliance immediately, with additional military support to protect the remaining nodes during activation. That's excellent news, Max said with evident relief. Tetraman support will significantly enhance our defensive capabilities. Ben nodded in agreement, though his expression remained thoughtful. We still need to locate the 6 missing nodes. According to the network projections, they're IAL to ensuring complete coverage during the convergence. The Koros Chronicle contains approximate locations for all 23 nodes, Looma confirmed. With the temporal node active, the remaining sites should be easier to pinpoint as they respond to the stabilization field. Then our next steps are clear, Max decided. Locate the remaining nodes, continue the activation sequence, and repair Earth's defenses in case the convergence doesn't provide complete protection. Always wise to have contingencies, Looma approved. Tetraman battle doctrine emphasizes multiple defensive layers. As the meeting concluded, Looma requested a private word with Ben. The others departed, leaving them alone in the conference room with Earth visible through the viewport beyond. The Phoenix integration progresses rapidly. She observed once they were alone, gesturing to the patterns that now extended across his upper body. Faster than my historians anticipated. Ben nodded, a hint of concern in his expression. The Covenant designed the protocol to adapt to circumstances. It seems to be responding to some urgency we haven't fully identified yet. The hunters' approach, Looma suggested. Possibly. Or something else. Ben hesitated before continuing. There's something Mentor isn't sharing. Some aspect of the convergence that remains blocked in his memories. I sense his reluctance whenever I try to access that information. Looma's expression grew serious. The Tetraman Chronicles mention a division within the Covenant regarding the final phase of the protocol. Some advocated for a more aggressive approach than merely evading the hunters. What kind of approach? The references are vague, Looma admitted. But they suggest some Covenant members believed that why hiding from the hunters would ultimately fail. That a more permanent solution was necessary. Like what? Ben pressed. The Chronicles don't specify, but they mention evolution beyond recognitio, and then transcendence of current limitations, as concepts debated within the Covenant leadership. Ben absorbed this information thoughtfully. So some of the Covenant may have designed the protocol to do more than just protect Earth from the current cycle. They might have been planning for a final confrontation. It would align with what I know of ancient Galvan philosophy, Looma acknowledged. They rarely designed for temporary solutions when permanent ones were possible. The Phoenix patterns pulsed subtly as Ben considered the implications. I need to access the blocked memories. If he convergence has consequences beyond what we're preparing for, We need to understand them before activation. Be cautious, Looma advised, unexpected concern evident in her tone. Tetraman legend. Speak of those who delved too deeply into Covenant knowledge and lost themselves in the process. The Phoenix Protocol was designed to release information progressively for good reason. I appreciate the concern, Ben said with genuine gratitude. But I need to know what we're really dealing with. Too many lives depend on getting this right. Looma studied him with all four eyes, her assessment both professional and personal. You have changed significantly since our last encounter, Ben Tennyson. There is a depth to you now that was absent before. Ben smiled faintly. Growing up tends to do that. Plus, you know, having ancient alien consciousness gradually integrating with your mind. It suits you, Looma said simply. The warrior you've become honors the alliance between our peoples. She extended her lower right arm, the formal Tetraman gesture of alliance between equals. Ben recognized the significance and clasped her forearm in the traditional manner, completing the ritual. House Red Wind stands with Earth against the Hunters, Looma declared formally. And with the Phoenix Bearer in the trials to come. Thank you, Ben replied, the simple words carrying genuine appreciation. We're going to need all the help we can get. As they looked out at Earth floating below, the planet seemed suddenly fragile, a blue jewel hanging in the darkness, unaware of the cosmic forces gathering around it. The Hunters approached, drawn by millennia of evolution and innovation, while ancient technology awakened to protect what its creators had never lived to see. And at the center of it all, the Phoenix Bearer watched and waited, carrying both humanity's past and its possible future within the patterns spreading across his skin. The convergence was coming, and with it, perhaps, a chance for one world to break the cycle that had claimed so many others. Chapter 3 End.